Hello. Welcome to the Xirtus.
What up, everybody? Welcome to SYNCTANK. Oh, yeah, that's AI-generated Greta Thunberg, reminding you that progress is all right if it's AI-generated, I guess. How's it going? How you doing, Thomas?
I gotta say kudos, although I've seen some much more detailed of that same set. For whatever reason, the AI sort of market, I guess, like the little tunnels where they all scurry off to. Greta happens to be like, you know, one of the go-tos.
I think it makes a lot of poetic justice, because the idea of Greta is she wants to make the world a better place, but she's making it a worse place. So what we have to do is make Greta a better experience for the world. And so it all works out, right?
Well, and not just that, but imagine the obscene amounts of energy it takes to generate some of these AI memes of her. And if she didn't exist, then, like, you know, that energy wouldn't be expended. Like, how many tons of coal have been expended from people just generating Greta memes? I don't know. There's poetic justice in it, right?
Yeah, I like to think about that too. Speaking of coal and like burning down the rainforest, that's not a good introduction for Eddie at all. But good to see you, Eddie. What's up? No, I was about to segue into the medicine man, and then you showed up, so I had to cut my own segue, and I realized, ooh, never like in the middle of a segue, because then all of a sudden, yeah, no, Eddie never cut down the rainforest. But do you remember that movie, The Medicine Man?
I'm sorry. Are we still in the green room or it's live now?
No, we're like live. We just jumped in. I'm sorry, bro. Like, there's no warning. I was like, let's just do it. Did you see the background today? How you feel about that? I don't know. That's our new background. It's SYNCTANK in traditional.
It's very
Chinese.
patriotic. I feel like you know, what's that movie called? Deer Hunter. Mao. Mao.
Be here, Mao. That's what I like to say.
I'm ready to burn down the schools and drag my parents to the square to get executed.
Oh, you're gonna make me segue to a different movie before I even get anywhere.
Was Deer Hunter China? I thought that was like
Vietnam. No, it's Vietnam. Where is Cambodia? I don't know.
Oh, it's Cambodia, but on a technicality,
yeah, Cambodia.
There's a movie called My Blue Kite, and the guy who made it's still like missing. You know what I mean? Because like he's living in hiding after making this movie. I highly recommend it. It's probably one of my favorite movies from China, about the Cultural Revolution and his life in China. And then they were like, whoa, you can't tell anybody about that time you kids burned down the school and like what you did to the teachers. Yeah, there's a lot of crazy stuff that happened in My Blue Kite. But also, I think the main point was his father got arrested because some other guy in his workforce said during a time of suggestions that they shouldn't ask them for suggestions and they should just like allow the bureaucrats to do their job. And because of that, they like arrested everybody involved in that like business, hundreds of people, and put them all into gulags. And so this kid just remembers his dad being in like a tree harvesting gulag as a kid. But that has nothing to do with the Medicine Man. Did you guys ever? So do you know the Medicine Man? Oh, here's David. What's up, David? Have you seen The Medicine Man? with Sean
Of
Connery?
course. And I remember how
There
many
we go.
times they played that preview for it. Every freaking day, where it's like, I found a cure for cancer, but I lost it in the night.
It was it.
Oh,
Pfizer
that's
came
this
in.
movie.
Dude,
Okay.
okay. First off, it's a Hollywood Pictures, so like I don't even want to get into the lore behind Hollywood Pictures and the few Scientologists that tried to buy it and what ended up happening when they like lost it. But okay, Tom Cruise I think got involved and so did Arnold Schwarzenegger. Then this movie, Medicine Man, is like the most true story because you've got a guy in the rainforests and he's trying to figure. He's a doctor and he's trying to learn about medicines that are naturally homeopathic medicines, and he finds a cure for cancer. But the problem is he loses it. Like he can't figure out where the sample came from because he had all these random rainforest samples. And it's not as simple as which tree it came from. It's like, did it come from this or that? And finally, he's on a race against time to find the cure to cancer because they're building a road through the rainforest. And if that road gets through the rainforest, it's going to tear down the tree and then the ecosystem will be gone. And whatever that cure was, it will be lost. And so finally,
One of the strongest arguments for protecting the rainforest, really.
You're not
Time travel.
You're not supposed to ayahuasca and lose your medicine.
and this lady's supposed to come from the pharmaceutical company and help him find it. And she starts to realize what's really going on in the rainforest at the time. Anyway, this is like what the world was like. And then they burned down the rainforest. It's pretty much gone now. There's not a lot of this left. There's not a lot of this.
Right. This film kind of echoes that type of RFK environmentalism at the time that like was just like what the left represented as far as like, we're on the right side of things, in the what is this? This is the 90s, this is mid 90s?
Yeah, that was 91 or something like that. I mean, look at their shirts and you can tell early 90s.
Okay. Early
Look at
90s.
that.
I'm not
Look at
wearing
that.
the red diapers like in Zardoz.
But they have like a McDonald's. They have a Macintosh computer in the rainforest, and it's pretty great. I forget why we brought that up, but it was to me it seemed important at one point. Do you remember what it was, Thomas? Why?
No, I'm trying to remember what the Silent Spring movie was. I don't know if you guys remember it. It was like a court movie. I want to say like John Travolta might have been in it. I might be way off on that. But it reminded me of like another similar 90s movie that was very pro environmentalism.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed really important because at the time we were taught that nature there was a little bit of it left. And now you realize they don't even tell you, oh, that's why, because we're talking about languages and how some people can speak many languages. And the idea that some languages will be saved because people will bring them to new places and speak them, or that they'll become part of slang. But that's super optimistic. And I was remembering the lost Amazon language burned down Brazil. You know what I'm talking about? There was a fire and it destroyed the National Museum in Brazil. And in this process, they had just gotten all the records centralized of this Amazonian language, and therefore it was lost in the fire.
How convenient.
Instantly, completely gone.
Well, you know the movie. There's another one. John Borman directed, Emerald Forest. Have you seen that one?
Emerald Forest.
But basically, like this white kid who was adopted by the Indian tribes in the Amazon.
Oh, right. Yeah, that one was pretty great. Yeah, that's true.
It's the same message.
Yeah,
but,
I like that.
Oh, yeah, I remember this movie. Totally.
That's actually John Borman's son.
Wow.
Yeah, he played the lead character.
Like Le Petit Indien, or Jungle.
Didn't Disney spoof this movie with Tim Allen? Where there
no,
was like...
they did. They did Le Petit Indien Jungle to Jungle. It's like, what was it? Jungle to Jungle.
Jungle to Jungle, yeah.
Un Indien dans la vie. Un Indien dans la vie. This is the one. Actually, not a bad movie. I think the French version is good, but it was, of course, this is a safe bet. And then you sent me this link a second ago, Thomas. What was this thing? The Zhao Man NYC.
Oh, this is just, I mean, for anyone that likes, learning multiple languages, this guy is amazing. He goes around New York,
China.
Yeah, he's super famous, but like he'll go into any shop in New York or anywhere and just start using the native language. Even if it's like some esoteric language that only like a few thousand people know.
Mandarin and stuff. He's really good at.
Yeah, he started with Mandarin, but then he started expanding because he realized everybody recognized him in China. So he's like, "Oh no, I can't do this channel anymore." So he expanded, and recently he did it in ayahuasca. He joined the ayahuasca ceremony with the natives and put frog poison all over his body.
Oh,
But
really? I haven't even seen that. That's probably a
Yeah,
good one.
He put frog poison all over his body, or he put a drop of it on his arm.
As you do.
He didn't put it in his mouth. Yeah, but they didn't demonstrate. I don't know. He probably was concerned about.
Don't try this at home, kids. Yeah.
There was no ingestion, but basically,
sometimes they hurt the
chief
frogs. That's what I don't
the
like.
chief was spitting all over his face, like spitting the ayahuasca all over his face. So the mist of ayahuasca is covering his body.
So you watched the footage of him doing ceremony?
Oh yeah. If you go to just go to his videos and you'll see it.
Okay.
Was it like a brand new one?
Well, it happened like 2 months ago or a month ago, but it's relatively new. Yeah, check it out.
That's very synchronistic. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I forgot to say last week, by the way, that Andrew Yeat has been a member of the channel, and last week's episode was his 12-month, 1-year membership. So I want to say thank you and a big yeet to Andrew for keeping with us, man. That's super awesome. We're gonna do a show pretty soon and talk about some stuff. Hit us up, actually, if you want. I will send you a link and you can get involved and like get on this episode or whenever you feel up to it. What was the other thing? Just a second ago, I was just thinking of Hollywood Pictures. Someone was talking about Hollywood Pictures. They asked why I brought that up. Well, did you know Walt Disney Studios was trying to come up with a non-Disney name for things, and this is before Eisner did Touchstone? So all these crazy movies that came out of the Sphinx before the Touchstone, which is the Alchemist Stone, you got like the Swing Kids and these like Nazi counterculture movies. I think was Arachnophobia. These kind of weird Disney trying to be a grown-up family company.
So there's Miramax too. Where is that on the timeline?
Miramax, I forget when Miramax starts, but Miramax was also
Miramax was not a Disney spin-off though.
It was acquired. It was acquired in 93. Okay, that's what it was. Independent era, yeah, before that.
Right. So that's the thing, is that movie Kids is technically a Disney movie.
Yeah.
Oh,
that tracks.
And Pretty Woman was Touchstone. I think that was one of the earlier Touchstone movies, if I'm not mistaken.
Dude, Eisner's way better than people give him credit, though. I was thinking about this week. Brittany got me a shirt, Videopolis. Do you guys know about Videopolis in Disneyland? There was an 80s dance club in Disneyland called Videopolis. And if I could just find, there we go. It looks so cool. Videopolis. And but they had rules against same-sex fast dancing and slow dancing, and it led to like Disney starting to allow homosexuals at the park and all this other stuff. And it was, they had to be careful about people above the age of 21. They wanted only kids on the dance floor, and they were worried about drugs. And then there was like 2 stabbings, like the first murders that ever happened in Disney history. Although one of them was in Tomorrowland because it was, some kid pinched some girl's butt or something like that. So,
really?
But yeah, Videopolis was like Disney's plan for like a rave scene at Disneyland in the 80s, and they were bringing in all these bands, just like the Mickey Mouse Club scene.
Back in the early 90s, I went with my college classmates. Captain EO was still there.
Right?
Was Captain EO part of this thing?
No, this is even cooler. So basically, they thought what they were going to do is put Videopolis where Captain EO is going to be, but they're like, no, we're already putting Captain EO there. So what we should do is we should build like Fantasyland. We'll build like a whole area, and so in the back where the Fantasyland theater is, where Toontown is now, that's where it was. So instead of but that's really interesting because you think it'd be
that theater. Yeah, I went there. The theater's still there.
Yeah,
we watched
and Mickey's Runaway Railroad is now where this was. But originally the plan, the thing, because Tomorrowland was still showing like nostalgic animatronics that were broken down and all this stuff, because Tomorrowland was still about corporatism. So Fantasyland somehow it made more sense anyway. So Disneyland was just like, there was a lot of problems with it, but Eisner realized really quickly, like, we need to start sexing up the company while also making other companies that aren't unbridled by the Disney name, and then use Disney as a human body shield.
Mm.
Just put the kids in front, and like that keeps the company safe.
Dude, they should have used Fairyland from Kurt Vonnegut's Breakfast of
Oh.
Champions.
I haven't posted these 2 articles. Just came out today. One is saying Disney is very desperate for money. You know, Disney is serious.
Oh yeah,
financial
they're
trouble.
forced to sell, right? Because they have to buy.
Yeah, because they lost $1 billion, you know, altogether this year. So I didn't post it, but the article, you can look it up. It's basically saying they're going full AI. They're planning to do AI production immediately to stop the swelling of the budget, and then the other one is the possibility of Apple takeover. I mean that one is not quite 100%.
I like the idea.
A lot of people are talking about it.
I remember because like how many of us are old enough to remember AOL Time Warner? You know what I mean? And everyone thought AOL Time Warner was going to be people thought that was going to be the greatest thing that ever happened. Like the internet and movies in one thing. I mean, AOL Time Warner was touted and then destroyed.
When I worked on Scooby-Doo back in 2002, that was still AOL. I don't know if AOL were pulled out already, but it was still it was the building. It was in Sherman Oaks.
Man, they messed up like Vice. It was bad. That was a bad business move. Yeah,
it was the worst merger ever. Worst.
Do you guys remember the AOL punters and progs and stuff? Does that ring a bell for any of you guys?
Hunters and Progs? No, what's that?
Punters and progs. So in the early days of AOL, maybe like version 6.0 and earlier, there were these things called progs or proggies. Yeah, dude. So it started out real basic. If you sent someone an instant message and wrapped it in an HTML tag and wrote like font size 9,999,000 whatever, and sent it to them, it would actually try to render a font so big that no computer at the time had the memory to handle it. And it would just instantly kick you off, sometimes shut down your computer. So that was called a punter because you were basically punting someone offline because their computer couldn't handle the message. And these went on for years and years because they kept getting more and more sophisticated because behind the scenes, AOL instant messages were just encoding HTML and JavaScript in every single message you sent. So, and then like there were scrollers, there was like server rooms and stuff.
Yeah, I had one that could make you eject your floppy or your CD drive. I remember that was fun.
It was just a different wild time, man. It felt like, this was the Wild West of the internet before anyone knew how to really sort of do anything. Or
it's
knew
crazy
how to
to
like
think about before regulation, how easy it was to like send a message to one machine from another machine and have it do a thing. And then they're like, we got to make that less easy.
And there were so many people that lived inside of this. Like to them, this was the internet. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people never ventured, like they didn't realize you could open up Netscape. And then like there was this whole other internet outside of AOL.
God, yeah, that freaked me out when I met people like that. But I remember Beanie Babies. Did you see the new Beanie Beanie Bubble Boom movie?
No.
Yeah, there's a movie about the Beanie Baby Bubble Boom, which has what's his name, Zach Galifianakis. But it's like a true story about the Thai guy who stole from a little girl the idea of certain Beanie Babies, and then how he like took her name off of them and everything. But
awesome.
the internet was really the thing that made Beanie Babies possible, because at the time, you're buying cheap stuff from China. And you buy a run, and if not everybody buys them, then you have a limited run, right? So you just continue to have these limited runs, and then the internet and eBay came out, and with that, all of a sudden, people trading them, the resale value went up. So they were built the amplification of eBay resale, limited editions. Like all of a sudden, they got to be like a $5 billion industry in like 1999, and then destroyed themselves because they didn't understand what the bubble was, essentially, that was happening.
Mm-hmm.
But
Beanie Baby bubble.
The Beanie Baby bubble.
Baby Billy's Bible bonkers.
Yeah, the Beanie bubble. Once it got to that point that like they had the eeny teeny weeny Beanie Babies at Mickey D's, I think that's when you knew. Yeah. That's when we hit the limit of what people would stand or tolerate, probably.
Those things were worth a lot of money, though. The aftermarket is pretty.
They still are, which is really scary.
It's worth as much as somebody's willing to pay, right?
Exactly. I remember as a kid, like I come in and like, what are all you kids doing at the ice cream store? They're like, we're buying Beanie Babies. I'm like, why? They're like, because they're going to be worth lots of money. I'm like, you're going in thinking this is not a good way to start.
Right. I know, right? Yeah. If you watch Garden State, when that guy, I forget the actor's name, but he's showing off his collection of Desert Storm cards. Like I have all of those, That's not worth what he's. Yeah, it's not worth what he said. I don't have all the stickers. I have a lot of them, but I don't have all the stickers. But I have all the cards, and it's like he's talking about how much that's worth. I go to look it up. I'm like, I guess it's not time to sell yet. When is it going to be time to sell?
Well, and actually, people care. So I got my dad got Hummel dolls, but I think all the people who care about Hummel dolls died. So now I have to wait another generation on Hummel dolls. What was the other one? There's the Beanie Babies, the Ghost Recon cards. There's another one. Oh, Brittany just got these New Kids on the Block action figures. It's not
action figures from the time, or what?
No, they're like mint, and they're like the tall, You
don't have them handy. You can't just grab them and show them to us. Okay.
Brittany, do you have the action figures? Do you have the? I don't know if she does, but she spent like $1 on these things. I think nobody cared about them.
That's a steal.
It literally. I felt bad for the person who sold them because they must have known better too.
You know that if you call Mark Wahlberg Marky Mark, he'll punch you in the face.
I can't wait. I'm still waiting for the please give me the excuse. That's where I'm at with Marky Mark. I apologize. What was the there's some synchronous reports I wanted to look at. You looked at Katy Perry's nunnery. What was going on with?
Oh no, because the nunnery that was like 5 years ago. But remember, she tried to chase the two nuns, the last remaining nuns at the Los Feliz conservative. What do you call it? But yeah, basically they were one of the nuns was she died in court during the live hearing. So
brutal.
So this time is she tried to kick this 86-year-old guy out of his house because he was under the influence. I think he was under some kind of painkiller, and then somehow he made a bad mistake of going with the deal to sell the house for what, 50 million? Well, 150 or 50 million. 15, and then he regretted it, and then now they're forcing it. They're like, no, you got to give it to us.
Well, he did make a deal. It sounds like, right?
But she just got this knack for killing elderly, just like taking over the land. I don't know.
It's hard though, right? Because they're boomers. But I hear you. I don't know. I mean, so this guy gets $15 million for his house. I mean, I'm not going to put this. Yeah, this isn't really a notch against Katy Perry. And frankly, buying a nunnery, have you seen what they do in nunneries? I don't know. She's probably not much worse.
But it's a massive compound. It's huge.
Is there a sync here so we can say it's not gossip, it's sync?
Yeah, right.
I'm trying to make the connection.
On her hands.
You got because in both the nunnery and at the mansion there were sinks in the bathrooms and kitchens, so there's at least something there. Here, just on that thought, why the brain's connections to the body are crisscross. So it's interesting because people all over are looking at synchronicity more and more, and just at the brain scans saying, "Hey, look how things are." Crisscrossed in a bilaterally symmetrical and bilaterally symmetrical animals, and all of them, from humans down to simple worms, nerves cross from one side of the body to the opposite side of the brain. Geometry may explain why. So there could be reasons why everything is double connected at different points and at diagonal positions. Dazzling interact. Yeah, I mean, that might be part of the quantum computer antenna system for that reason. The nervous system is cross-wired so that the left side of the brain controls the right half of the body and vice versa. But why? Every doctor relies upon this fact to perform neural exams. When I asked them why this should be, all I got was a shrug. So I asked Catherine Carr, a neuroscientist. She said, "There's no good answer," she replied. I was surprised. The key is the solution lies in exactly how neural circuits are laid out within the brain tissue. Neurons that make connections between the brain and the body are organized to create a virtual map in the cerebral cortex. If a neuroscientist sticks an electrode into the brain and finds that neurons that receive input from the thumb, for example, then neurons next to it in the cerebral cortex will connect to an index finger. This mapping phenomenon is called somatotopy, Greek for body building. But it's not limited to the physical body. The 3D external world we perceive through vision and through our other senses is mapped on the brain in the same way. So I've
thought a lot about this in regards to the Kabbalistic tree, because they have this thing of the turning, the twist dimensionally.
If you look at a Lucifer sigil and the way I'm trying to show you the picture of it was an ancient steel plate etching. Let's see. Yeah, so it's also it's actually. Well, I'm trying to show you that. I'm trying to find that post I made. But basically, there was one diagram that showed the eyesight was also crisscrossed because the retina also has in the in back of the visual cortex, it's also cross the what do you call it? The nerve endings also crisscross like that. But
so I mean, are we seeing everything forwards? Because if we're created backwards and everything is a reflection, then does that cancel out? Is that like a double negative? Are we getting it right?
What's that? Isn't there an old alchemical depiction of what looks like what you're calling the Lucifer sigil, where it's showing how the pineal gland relates to the eyes and eyesight?
I'm trying to find that. I'm sorry.
Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah, I'm looking for it. I posted many times. I can't find it at the second.
I don't know if this is the same one, but the cover of Francis Yates' Art of Memory, I think, uses that diagram.
Yeah, I mean,
well, there's another one too, like the one all the way on the right.
Okay, or maybe just type Lucifer.
Yeah. I don't know if that's the one you were thinking of or not.
Eyesight, yeah,
similar, but not that one. Yeah, but it actually it shows that geometry, like of what is that? Google Play or something use that too. That.
Yeah, but yeah, exactly. Yeah, Google Play is also using. Yeah, it's also based on that design. So basically, like it's saying that that's how the light bringer brings in the light into your visual cortex.
And this is why René Descartes posited that the pineal gland was the seat of the soul, because it was the only part, according to him, in the brain that didn't have this crisscross effect, that it didn't have a side that it was biased towards, and he was trying to find the dead, middle spot, because he kind of theorized that the soul couldn't live in one side or the other. It had to live in the whole, and the only whole of the entire body is probably the pineal gland and maybe like the spinal cord.
Right, because it's the most medial point of the brain, and then there's the corpus callosum actually connects along with the corpus callosum is still medial, but those two hemispheres, they don't actually touch except through that. So but yeah, what was that?
Andrea, I just uploaded in the mailbox. Yeah, there's a link with not just one, multiple pictures. Let's see. Yeah, so that one, the second one, is he the one? Yeah, on the left. Yeah, that one.
Oh, there it is. That's one I was thinking of.
That's the way they say the Lucifer sigil came from, and with the same the double focus crossing.
Wow. Alex,
reflection.
Hey, we're looking at René Descartes' Google Play app logo design. What do you think?
Wait, I'm sorry. Say that again.
So this is René Descartes' eye, but it's also, you'll notice it's doing kind of the Lucifer sigil with like the lines from the way the reflection or refraction is happening.
Sure.
I mean, we can go back and look at that real quick. Lucifer sigil. This kind of thing.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, totally.
That kind of thing. It's even doing the swirlies in the squishy part of the eyes.
Yeah. Wow, big time. And wait, and what's the new logo?
I just was because then we were saying, what was it, Google Play logo?
Oh, Google Play.
Yeah, Google Play has that same kind of.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Lucis Trust.
You could say that about every
Oh,
corporation.
Speaking of which, Lucis Trust is celebrated 100 years of Lucis Trust.
And don't call them Lucis Trust. It's the Lucifer Publishing Company. Don't let them.
That was what it was. That's not like you're not blowing smoke.
No, that was the actual name before they changed it.
Yeah.
So that's the eye, like a lizard eye.
Totally.
I think if it was up to Alice Bailey, she would have kept it though. Like if it was just solely up to her, because I don't think she would have cared. But it was probably like they're like, Alice, look, this is a little bit too much. People might get the wrong idea. There's a lot of religious people out there. You're connecting yourself to the UN.
I like the idea of the Theosophics mixed with the honeymooners. I like where you're going with this. That's how it should have been.
Yeah.
I'm a Pepsi guy. I'm a Pepsi guy.
Pepsi. Trying to do Ralph Cramden.
Ralph and the Theosophics.
Like Joan Crawford.
I'm watching that show right now in my mind, and it's a good show. That's who Alice is. It is Alice Bailey.
People have to at least watch the Aliens episode where the thing with the what happens to him. I can't remember. He has an encounter. He has an alien encounter in one of the episodes.
Yeah, he sees the moon now.
Which president was he talking to?
He said he talked to Nixon. He said that Nixon showed him the aliens or something. What was it?
Who did this?
the autopsy. what
What
was
is, yeah,
that?
what is
Jackie
the story?
Gleason?
What is the story with
So
Jackie Gleason?
Jackie
and
Gleason claimed
Nixon.
that
Jackie Gleason.
that Nixon showed him a bunch of stuff. I think he even showed him a UFO. It's Jackie Gleason's story. So he had that episode of The Honeymooners, and then he went on to be like, "No, but for real though, I saw the aliens. Nixon showed them to me." I don't know about Jackie Gleason, man.
I mean, I'm pretty sure it's all true. I mean, Jackie Gleason also refused to work again outside of Florida. He went down to be with the water rats in Florida. He wanted only to be working with people he trusted from his own lodge after like 1960 or something like that. There's a lot of interesting stuff about Jackie Gleason and how he kept like real tight with his group and nobody else, you know.
His own lodge. You mean his own?
Yeah. So the water rats. What is it? Like the water rats lodge. So Grand Order of the Water Rats is a British entertainment industry fraternity and charitable organization that was based in London but ended up in Florida. And several members include Laurel and Hardy, Prince Philip, King Charles.
Was it a Pied Piper reference? Water
Michael
rats?
of Kent, I suppose. I don't know. I mean,
Because that's kind of creepy if you're talking about the kidnapping of children and stuff. I'm not saying, you know, that's like what the story is. Basically, he takes their children.
They were
it's not Artie
Stan.
Yeah, it's interestingly, like Oliver Hardy's father was a Confederate army soldier who left to go back to Britain, right? And Stan was born in England, but like moved young to like Ohio and Florida, and was part of the Water Rats, right?
I wouldn't trust the name Laurel.
Hey, Alex, did you ever see the episode of Laurel and Hardy with their lodge, the Sons of the Desert episode?
No, I haven't.
That was recommended to me by Tracy Twyman, like shortly before she passed. She was like, "Oh, you have to see this," and it did kind of blow my mind a little bit because there's some weird. So yeah, they basically want to go to this Freemason type party. And the wives won't let them, and so they do this whole fakery thing, pretending to be sick, and they pretend that they went on vacation on a cruise ship, but then the cruise ship sinks while they're going to this event, and then the wives find out. I don't want to spoil it all. You should actually watch this. This is like some crazy classic weird stuff, but there's a breakdown that Stanley has at the end, which I think she was relating to the Eyes Wide Shut when Bill Hartford confesses to everything to Alice and he breaks down crying because it's very like basically they're being put in this position where the wives are testing them on which one's telling the truth and which one would tell the truth because they know the truth, and they kind of test their husbands. And Stanley just like breaks down. He's like, "I'll tell you everything." And so he's like confessing about going to this secret society party in tears, and it's kind of reminiscent in this weird way. And then he gets the special treatment. So there's that whole argument that that's what was happening with. That's encoded into Eyes Wide Shut. It's like Kubrick telling his wife things, and the attitude of the secret society is being like, no, your wife doesn't. we do what we want, and the wives are just kept in the dark, you know?
Yeah, well, then there's also like a kind of aspect of like, what is the ghostwriter kind of thing where the wives are kind of like almost more like look at the wives is sort of the message of Ghost Rider, and I do that with Kubrick, looking at Kubrick's wife, and his wives are very interesting. And the whole, we think of it like there's alchemical marriages, you know, marriages that happen because of their timing, and like it's as much as important as anything. So
yeah,
when I see the end of the Ghost Rider and the whole thing like hinges on actually it's the wife.
Yeah, like, she's a CIA assassin or something.
She was his handler, basically.
Right. It's encoded into his memoir through an acrostic. And what's interesting is that I just shared this sync on my Twitter of it was one of my syncs of the day the other day, but it's Eyes Wide Shut, Star Wars, The Ninth Gate, and Ghost Rider. And so you know how the beginning of The Ninth Gate, they pass through these 9 gates, like in the credits, you know? So when it gets to the 9th one at the end, if you start Ghost Rider at that time, at that second, then they will cut to credits, The Ninth Gate and Ghost Rider at the same time. And the credits of Ghost Rider are all like made to look like CIA document style stuff. And then the credits of The Ninth Gate is just fire. So it
Mhm.
looks like the documents are being like on fire. Like I feel like there's like some like it goes beyond just like simple resonance,
For sure.
because the actual book that the fictional book in the Ninth Gate is inspired by or based off of, I forget what it is. Nora knows what it is, but it contained that book from 1499. The actual book contains an acrostic that reveals the name of the writer, supposedly. And it looks to me like in Ghost Rider, they were like referencing that that same I don't know, technique or whatever. So yeah, it's something weird there.
Well, here. You said Tracy connected Sons of the Desert to Eyes Wide Shut.
Yeah.
So I went ahead and looked at the time between the release dates of those things. So December 29th, 1933 for Sons of the Desert, and then if you go to with the premiere date of Eyes Wide Shut, which was July 13th, it's great because I just measured it, and it's 23,937 days.
Oh wow.
Which you can probably do in your head is 23. It's 237 times 101, or 23,700 plus 237 days. So that's pretty crazy. Wish I could tell Tracy that. I never got to talk to her, but
I
Did you
never
ever see that
spoke with her. I just did a lot of instant messaging. What's
Did you ever
that?
see that movie, The Front, from Woody Allen?
Maybe.
front.
So like, gosh, Woody Allen, do something here. So basically, back in the old days, they used to blacklist people a lot before canceling people. They would just blacklist them for being communists. So this is a movie about what if a bunch of these blacklisted people just got together and hired an actor like Shakespeare to be the front for them. And it's kind of amazing because it's just so real. I mean, so many actors, so many people that are famous for their own words are really just quoting other people, or there's a team behind them, or even worse, you know, like the team finds the person because they're far too famous or too valuable, too elite.
Well,
to-
that's the whole Shakespeare,
Right.
Mozart.
Who did they say that Shakespeare was? Was it
Francis Bacon.
De Vere.
Well,
there's a multiple
probably
different.
probably De Vere, but also Bacon and William Cecil probably controlled the project.
Hey, here's another weird thing that today that
And John Dee.
DeSantis announced that he wants to ban all Shakespeare publishing. He wants to ban Shakespeare plays when he becomes president. He says
What?
He's coming after the theater geeks.
Bruh,
yeah,
that's
he says
hilarious.
it's too provocative. He says
You know
too
what?
sexual.
First Splash Mountain and now
DeSantis?
Shakespeare.
Filthy.
I don't know what to think about this because if you
They're
get rid
not
of Splash Mountain,
cross-dressers.
a part of why I said you shouldn't get rid of Splash Mountain is because you're basically getting rid of Shakespeare. So I'm kind of losing arguments left and right if you got no place to stand. I don't know. Shakespeare's not that great. You know, like Shakespeare's interesting and all, but it is
It's a bit boring.
It's like the dude's a made up person who invented a bunch of new words, and I wouldn't mind just doing Bill and Ted, like Excellent Adventure for kids. I feel like that would be just as good. But I
Some
think
pretty cool
Shakespeare-
words, though.
There's some pretty great words. The idea of making up words itself is neat. That's pretty sweet. I like that. I don't know. I feel like DeSantis is just upset because his wedding he had like a horrible wedding at Disney World. And like
Are you just kind of saying? Are you saying he's overrated? Is that what you're saying? Or are you saying that it's,
Shakespeare?
I mean, is it like the Beatles? Is it like?
Let me revert to like what I'm saying.
The
this way here.
Bible's overrated.
What I'm saying is that Maoism eventually will prevail, and we won't need anything. We won't even need me or. That's all I'm saying, basically. I think the Cultural Revolution, you know, it's like sink or swim. And if we don't need Shakespeare to survive, then what are we fighting to save it for necessarily, you know?
Is it
But
just a
Macbeth has been
coincidence that
remade in so many ways?
all of Shakespeare's fabrications happened in the globe?
Right, you know,
Mwah,
the whole
ha,
thing.
ha.
I don't like it.
I like you were saying we should just have like a TV show or something like a Bill and Ted's. Do you remember Encyclopedia? This was, I think, from like the late 80s on HBO. It was like a kids show, and it was like period pieces, and they would teach you about alchemy from like the Middle Ages, and then they would teach you about all this other stuff.
Oh,
I don't think it was
yes,
very
'cause
long
Grecian
lived,
Deck.
but
88, yeah, the
never
Encyclopedia
know.
Sesame Workshop, HBO for Infobox. Wow. Okay, so basically, it must have been connected to the Sesame Street Workshop.
And it was very much like period piece theme. But yeah, look at it. It did REM, Alchemy, Radar. Like it was pretty serious.
Wow,
That's
that's pretty sweet. Yeah, we need to get back to that. Oh, you can watch them.
Yeah,
Okay.
there you go, dude. See, like they actually.
Oh wait, the intro. Hey, I'm just hanging out. Look at me. I'm having a good time. Whoa,
Got
we're
my
just gonna
cross-colored
learn
shirt
today.
on.
Let's shake it up. We're gonna learn about Napoleon. Yes, that's exactly what we need. What happened to that? Like, what happened to our world? Why do they not want kids to learn these things anymore? Why are they hiding the truth? I feel like the thing is, it's probably not necessary for kids to learn everything. Because if we're teaching them stuff, it reminds me of when we had people come teach us about hate crimes, you know, in Santa Cruz. You had all these like lesbian boys who were really tolerant of each other, and they had no cares of what color anyone was because, you know, we watched the Power Rangers, and there was regression in teaching the history of this stuff. Maybe we're supposed to actually let kids forget about all the fights that happened and everything they fought for. And maybe we're just supposed to move on. How about that?
And you know,
start a new history.
today somebody
No
was
one's
trying
gonna
school
argue
me.
with that. Come on, I just literally burned
No,
all the
I mean,
Bible.
I think
it's
Shakespeare is
possible.
funny, and I think that even his tragedies are funny, and that's the
I like
they're
I was
they're,
kinda
they're,
kidding,
they're
yeah.
satirical. They're really good. Even like Love's Labor's Lost, like you know,
We're
Midsummer,
seriously
like,
debating whether that Shakespeare's good or not. Come on.
Yeah,
I mean, it's like
yeah,
it's not.
if you want to say that he's overrated,
If you
I
want to
can
say
dig
that he's
that.
part,
I'm
it's
not
part
gonna,
of a social engineering, like a long-term social engineering project.
I think the answer is it doesn't matter
But
whether
that's still
something's
great,
good or
you know?
bad. It doesn't matter if
Okay.
it's good. Like, it's good isn't the point, right? Like,
No.
the thing is, do we teach kids about Shakespeare? Do we teach kids about Epstein? It
Well, we
shouldn't be
teach
like,
kids
do we
about
teach
life
good?
and literature, and that's what literature does. Is like it's a life experience, food for the imagination, you know. So
Isn't
I don't think that'll ever go out of style.
isn't it what's it called, the what was that one with the black character? Oh, I forgot.
Othello?
The one.
Oh,
Just
yeah,
the
yeah,
one.
yeah.
Othello? Othello's
but-
super racist against Spaniards, you know? Yeah,
So-
that one's the one that bugs me a bit, you know, as a Spaniard. But
So is Othello the very first literature about interracial relationship?
no,
I mean,
there's one that's like 100 years earlier, and there's actually like tons of stories. It's that one, just the timing, because you have the war between Britain and Morocco, and so the Arabs all of a sudden, Spain is worried about them, and they've already had problems with Spain because the Arabs ran Spain, and there's a Spanish Armada like 100 years earlier, or actually no, into 20 years. 20 years
Spain
into
is
this.
liberated in 1492. That when they sailed to America, that was when they kicked out all
Sure,
the
but
Moors,
like, also the convoluted idea of how big Spain was, which states actually were part of Spain, parts of South Spain didn't really get fully conquered or released, and you know,
I got this guy, too.
simultaneously you've got when Spain is let's look at this.
Oh yeah.
When Spain
this-
is lost, Constantinople is taken.
This came up in the homunculus pamphlet research, but there's this kind of like prototypical story of Romeo and Juliet that might have even influenced some of Shakespeare's later works. And there's some concepts that would indicate that maybe Shakespeare was like, his work maybe is like the Bible, right? It was compiled by multiple people over time and attributed to one person.
Yes.
But yeah, this is a really cool one. Salomon and Absalom.
Well, they just did Amleth, which is Hamlet, which is from the Old Norse myth, when they did in this movie The Northman that just came out that Robert Eggers made, which was fantastic. It was just a retelling of Hamlet.
Wasn't there a rumor that I forgot what it was, but wasn't something about that when Shakespeare is actually the love child of Queen Elizabeth I or something like that? Like they're
It's
related.
so much
or-
more raunchy. It's like she had a bastard with her own love child. I don't know if you saw the movie Anonymous, but it's not necessarily that's exactly how it happened either.
that wasn't a very good movie. Did you like that? Did you guys like
I
that?
mean, you know,
That
I
was
mean,
the
I think
Shakespeare movie, right?
We all wanted there to be some movie. I liked a new movie recently that was like The Lost King about Richard III. That was about a true story about a woman who just became. I think we talked about this. She became obsessed with Richard III, and then she eventually like tracked him down, found his lost remains. She got old maps of London, figured out that even though they burned down the churches, they didn't build over them because they were superstitious. So in a parking lot, she found actually the body of Richard III and proved that he wasn't a usurper, that Shakespeare had lied in the Richard III play, and made him sound like a crazy hunchback and usurper when that was just propaganda so that the tutors would look better. And so
Hey,
wasn't
wasn't she buried directly under the letter R too?
right under letter R? Yeah, she's like, I can't believe this, but there's a reserved R letter there. I think we need to go under that, and that's where
You know what? I don't need any more proof for the Francis Bacon thing, Shakespeare thing, other than Manly P. Hall's The Secret Teachings of All Ages, because it's got that flap and you can see through it. And I mean, come on, like
you wouldn't put that onion skin page in that book unless you knew.
I know, right?
Yeah, right.
It's like I don't need anything else, you know.
So Manly P. Hall came. I was trying to scream Manly P. Hall over and over again on Base AF the other night because they were talking about sigils and symbols and when people don't understand symbols. And there's always that great quote that the uninitiated aren't meant to understand the symbol, right? And so it doesn't mean you're not supposed to have uninitiated not see the symbol. You have the symbol everywhere, and then they can kind of ascribe their own meaning to it, and that's great because by doing that, they're putting their energy into the symbol, which is really about the thing you constructed it for. So you end up controlling, their energy.
Hey, by the way, I recommend Tamara Lucid's podcasts and books on Manly P. Hall because she knew him. And I got interviewed by this woman with the old Reality Sandwich before they got bought and kind of destroyed. But yeah, her stuff is really interesting. Tamara Lucid.
Dude, I like how this guy says you don't usually just find a body in a parking lot. Okay, well, what's that street in Vienna that's like Grave Street, Austria? It's in Vienna or is it in Salzburg? It's in Vienna, right? Basically at one point it's like Grave Street. They took a bunch of it's like they took the street, Graben Street. There it is. This street, they eventually were like, you know what? We really don't know what to do with all these dead bodies. Let's just build a street over it, and we'll call
poltergeist.
We'll call it Graben Street. Guess what Graben Street means? Yeah, it's Grave Street. So that's a fun street to walk down all the time.
Is that referenced in a Leonard Cohen song, Vienna? I feel like it is.
Probably.
I'm Your Man.
It's not a catacomb. I mean, how's it different than a catacomb like in Paris?
Wow.
Fun fact, Manly P. Hall wasn't in Masonry when he wrote his books. He was given the degrees as a result of his books. Well, but then that's kind of messed up because then he has to keep secrets. And the only people who got the book was the Prince Bernhard of the Netherlands and like the Los Angeles Freemason Lodge, or was it the Venice Beach Freemason Lodge? I forget.
How are we even reading it? I mean, it's in the title of the book.
Because of the Venice Beach, Freemason Lodge. That's why. Come on. I don't think it was Bernhard's fault.
He was basically made honorary Freemason. Like they made him honorary 33rd because they were like, "There's nothing else we can teach you." And also, fun fact is that after he was made honorary Mason, he never wrote about Masonry again because then he basically saw it, like that oath he finally took.
Oh shit! Is that what happened to Obama? Didn't Obama? That was 32nd degree. Wasn't Obama given an honorary 32nd degree in Freemasonry? Am I making that up?
Was he?
Who
I think so.
I think you have to actually want it. I don't think they just give it to you like Mormons, like baptizing you after
Are
you
you
die.
sure? I think they might, because that's what I was wondering about, like with the realists with Elon. I'm like, because how did that happen? Did they just saw what he was doing and they're like, we like him, we're gonna make him an honorary member?
He was in all the right places to know the Raelians. He was in Canada, in Toronto, in the late 80s, early 90s.
Right. I mean, through inference, it makes perfect sense. But at the same time, I'm like, if you wanted to argue it from a technical place, it's kind of a similar issue. It's like, did they just give it to him without asking? Were they just like, Obama, yeah, you know what? You're doing great stuff.
You can't give someone like, because like part of it is
no matter what,
you have to do this ritual. And so it's kind of like it's two parts. It's their part and your part. And there's also a witness. And so you can't just it's kind of like forcing someone to sign a contract. Like the contract has to be between two mutually agreeing parties.
How rare do you think it is to have a 33rd degree? Be a third degree.
Well, you can look up the registry
because
you can see like who's a Freemason and what degree they are.
We're talking about Star Trek now
Obama
because of Christopher Pike.
Wouldn't Obama be stuck with Prince Hall?
So you guys remember that Star Trek?
I mean, there's a lot of Daily Motion that say that, but yeah, I really don't think that Obama's a Freemason or that he would unpublicly.
Here's my question: is Tom DeLonge a Prince Hall Freemason? Because every picture I've seen, every picture I've seen, this is the picture of him as a Freemason. Like, okay, I get it, he's a Freemason. Also, like Ace Ventura. What am I looking at here?
Why is he wearing a denim shirt and like a Hanes t-shirt?
Even his fucking apron doesn't have the fringe. What's up with this, man?
Well, that's the loner. Like, so if you show up without your own apron, that
reminds me of Tom Clancy at the NSA. I don't know. I just watched this lecture that he gave in the 80s to. It's Tom Clancy talking to the the NSA, and it's all blacked out. You don't know who's there, but like it's fascinating talk. But it's like, why is this guy talking to the NSA?
Because he freaking influenced intelligence agencies and the military crazy. Because at the very least that they all read his books and were like entertaining that paradigm. Like this is just what it is. Yeah.
But the story is it's so weird though. It's a kind of a being there situation of like outsider, coming in, and he's an insurance salesman. And today it's funny, I just drove by a place, and this is the city, the sign, it's for an insurance place, and it said something like, it was called Century Insurance Agency. And I was like, oh, it's the CIA.
I go by that one all the time. CIA and, insurance, we have that.
So it's just
like the CIA.
That's the kind of
dude. That's fitting too, because look at those glasses, dude. He's full on Jonestown right there. Look at
absolutely. It's like, and it's so intentional.
He's living the dream, That's the.
He sounds like Bill Maher. I thought it was Bill. It could be Bill Maher's brother.
33rd degree free. Hold on.
Yeah, you were asking how many are there? There's about 4,000, and otherwise.
Sorry, I might have to buy a shirt real quick because I didn't realize I could get like Freddie Flintstone in an apron.
I asked because I actually I learned that my I guess he would be my.
Oh, this is so good! Come on, Yoda, and he's holding the freaking compass. Yeah,
it's on the back of the shirt. Is there a badge on the front? What the hell?
I mean, this is the front here. Look at Freemasonry, our fraternity. It's adorable. Our fraternity.
I'm sure that's officially licensed too.
Officially licensed by Disney.
She is not good.
On the level. Come on, this is like kind of
on the level.
It's like when you don't want to say you don't want to say you're gay at work, but you wear a shirt that like lets other people know that you're fun. That's what this is. I like it.
There's a term called porch masons, which are like the ones that get the tattoos and the bumper stickers and the shirts and the hats and the jackets.
Yeah. I like that. I like that.
Why don't they make any more goat shirts? It's not cool anymore. It's like all of those
like shirts for goats or
writing the goat stuff. The euphemism stuff.
The reason I asked this because is my as I was cleaning out my parents' house, my grandfather's stuff. Not my grandfather. He's like my mom's stepdad, who died before I was born, so I never met him. But she had some of his stuff, and one of them was his 33rd degree yearbook, basically, Freemasonry yearbook. And so I was just like, oh, okay, he was 33rd degree. What's that mean? I mean,
whatever. It's rare. It's basically honorary. So like by the time you get to the 32nd, if you get to 33, it means that you've like impressed the world and you've made an impact on Freemasonry as a whole. That's
right.
What that's supposed to denote.
But it's it's just people are like, oh, this guy's a 33rd degree Mason, man. He's a 33rd. Terry Truman was a third. Yeah, he was also president. It's like,
it really
my freaking grandpa was a 33rd degree Mason. He was
if you're a 32nd degree Mason, it essentially means you completed the Scottish Rite. And if you get to 33 degrees, you've earned an honorary title. You can compare this maybe with Eagle Scouts. Like you can maybe, because like Eagle Scouts is it's actually kind of easy to do. You just have to do the community service. You have to do the thing, but like not everyone goes above and beyond and does community service. And
it's actually a perfect analogy because then also the degrees are like the badges you get. So many people are like, oh, you went from the 4th to the 32nd degree. It's not like this ladder that you're climbing. Right. It's just like badges that you're adding to.
Another one of the magical systems of advancement and like.
I find it very interesting that Harry Truman became 33rd only a week before he met Oppenheimer.
Really?
It was both happened in October, right?
Yeah.
October.
I was gonna look that day up and I never did, but I did find the day that he became a 33rd degree Mason.
Yeah. So he basically like just slammed the door in Oppenheimer's face.
That was my favorite scene in that movie. Maybe one of them.
Don't get this pussy in my. don't let this guy into my office ever again. So, but yeah, it almost feels like a ritual. It almost feels like a humiliation ritual for Oppenheimer when he walked into the Oval Office. But,
hey, I just looked it up. I wanted to fact check myself. Yes, Barack Obama is a 32nd, but it says RD here, degree Prince Hall Freemason. So maybe if they're misspelling it, then I should check.
What's up with the water buffaloes?
So FYI, this is a legit degree that you can obtain. They're called like decorative degrees. But if you're a Freemason, I think it's with not the jesters, but the Shriners, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it looks like Shriner, yeah.
So if you're in the Shriners, then you can get this actual water buffalo degree. And they had like a little pin or something that had, Fred Flintstone with like an apron on. If you went through the degree.
Is John Goodman a Freemason? Even if you watch that show Community, it seems to imply it as well, because he has his whole character is like a Freemason.
I would imagine because he plays like a blue collar, like Roseanne husband, like he just feel vibes like that would be his.
Is Tim Allen a Freemason?
I'm so glad you brought up his role in Community. Like to this date, that is one of the best portrayals of mind control and sort of gaslighting. And for anyone who doesn't know this one scene, they're like he's trying to find like the central AC unit, and I think it's Donald Glover, right? And he's going through like the AC vents, and he finally gets into this room, and John Goodman's sitting at this desk, and like I'm just gonna make some stuff up, but like on one side is like an astronaut, and on the other side is like a pirate or something. And he's talking to this guy, and he's like, "You're now part of the secret society." He's like, "What's up with the astronaut and the pirate?" And John Goodman says, "Well, now if anyone ever asks you about this, and you tell them about the astronaut and pirate, they'll just think you're crazy." And that just kind of like clean. And man, what a perfect because I don't know if you guys remember those like Michelle Remembers Satanic Panic stories, but it would be like, and Ronald McDonald was there, and the Burger King was there, and Grimace was there. You know what I mean? Like the McMartin stuff. And then it was like, oh, that's so crazy. Of course, they're making it up. Pinocchio couldn't have been there. And I always think of that episode of Community. It's like they knew, they know how to do it, right?
Right.
And not talking about John Goodman. I think in Barton Fink is quite a ritual too. I mean, it also is a display of him being a traveling salesman, right? He's a traveling man.
Also, in the Yo Brother Where Art Thou, where he's Cyclops, I think is pretty much like that one with Goodman.
He's Connor. He's a Connor. He's John Connor. Yeah.
Did you see? So I've been watching Strange New Worlds recently, and so I've been thinking about Masonry a lot, because if you think about the original Star Trek, right? Like the original version of Star Trek was supposed to be Freemasonry in space with a little bit of Anton LaVey. The Vulcan was clearly, and it's even in the original pilot screenplay. If you read it, it's just like an Anton LaVey looking devilish character. Yeah, he's supposed to be. He's supposed to be a Satan stan, for sure.
Which really means a Don Rickles looking character, because LaVey was kind of like Don Rickles.
But Spock takes it to like a more Jewish place, even, because he does the Vulcan hand symbol, which he said he got from. Remind me, David, from.
It's the letter Shin, and so the priests would they would do a ritual, and you're supposed to keep your eyes closed. And he was a kid, and he opened his eyes, and so when it came time while they were filming, he was like, I feel like we should have some kind of greeting or something, and so he used the Shin
because they were singing the Shekinah. Wasn't that what you saw? Because you're supposed to close your eyes, you're not supposed to witness the Shekinah.
But I mean, I've seen it like on synagogues. This little statue here, they'll have the hands in this shape sometimes, like as a carving or as a stone sculpture. So you're allowed to know it exists. Essentially, we're allowed to talk about it. But
I just tweeted about Spock and Captain Kirk, so I'll bring it up here because it's this one blew my mind. Actually, is that Captain Kirk and Spock, aka Leonard Nimoy and William Shatner, were born within a few days of each other in March something, whatever. Anyway, but they were both born in the month that was the 666th month of Aleister Crowley's life. So I mean, come on, Star Trek, they're like the two halves of the brain or whatever.
And the first captain of the ship, so the version originally was supposed to be, Albert Pike. You got Chris Pike, who is the captain of the first pilot episode. And then they say, we like this, but we don't like this. We want to reshoot this, and we want a new captain. We change everything. And so they kind of combine the pilot into the Menagerie episode, where you see what happened to what's his name, to Chris Pike. But the idea of like Pike instead of a Jesuit with a Satanist by his side. And then how Star Trek changed by the Next Generation, because by the Next Generation, you're no longer rejecting all emotion like the Vulcans are. You have Diana Troy, you have this empath, and you're constantly trying to manage your emotions. And so the new show is just super Scientology. It seems like trying to process your emotions at the correct times, precision of language. I mean, it looked like some nightmare scene out of Tom Cruise's Marriage to Katie Holmes or something like that. It was crazy.
I was watching like a French video on YouTube years ago, And Amy, my ex, she spoke French pretty well. And I asked her if she could help me translate the video because there was no closed caption, there was no translation. And basically what the video ended up being was that they kept on showing Star Trek and The Wizard of Oz. And I was like, what are they doing? And they were making an argument that, what was his name? I'm drawing a blank right now. The writer of Star Trek.
Gene Roddenberry.
Gene Roddenberry. I almost said it, but yeah. So that they were arguing that this different planets and places that they go in Star Trek were basically being utilized by like MK Ultra or some other umbrella projects to basically create like altars for people, and that they would use them as a map of compartmentalization, so that like all the different places and all the different characters, they all had their place in this kind of like elaborate like mind control setup where people would flip into that they're not just like somebody else, they're actually in another place. And
Stardate
so like
3012.6.9. Yeah, it's like enough of that.
Because there's like a lot to keep track of supposedly, and they use that as a tool. I don't know.
I feel like I'm a broken record, but Voyager takes place in the year 2370 or something like that. And there's another Star Trek, Enterprise actually. Is that the one? Yeah, the one that came out right after 9/11 premiered.
That's like 2270s or something.
Yeah, I don't remember, but it's the prequel, and it's like it's about temporal Cold War, and time war.
So Bezos is the original. When they do Bezos in South Park, like this is based on the pilot episode of Star Trek, because originally what happens is Chris Pike gets kidnapped. Where is he at? Chris Pike gets kidnapped, and he's put in this weird like Matrix reality where everything is perfect, but it's not. And then the menagerie episode's all about him trying to escape back there because his life he's stuck in this freaking box, so he's trying to get back to this weird world where he'll be living in a a psychedelic daze with some other woman who was put together wrong after an accident because they've never seen a human before, so she's stitched together wrong, right? So
dude, that's kind of a sync for me right now. You showing me that picture, and I just shared before this show on Twitter a Far Side comic where they're like, who's the brains of this outfit? And the cops are busting in, and there's like the guy with the giant head, because I was responding to Natalie Portman left her husband or whatever, and somebody was making a joke that his forehead is like big enough for everybody, like because he's got this giant forehead. And so I just shared this giant bulging head picture and from Far Side, and now I'm like looking at it again. Yeah,
these guys are nuts, man, because it feels like pretty real. So the whole thing is that you can live inside of your own fantasy, and the more that you do, like they'll reward good thought and they punish bad thought. I feel like this was way too much for people when this came out. I mean, maybe not. Maybe in the 50s you had Twilight Zone, but somehow by the 60s, I feel like Star Trek, they're like, whoa, tone it down. You can't do Twilight Zone Technicolor. Like that's not going to work. And they tried to make it more MK Ultra sex. But the first episode is straight up Gene Roddenberry's plan for Scientology in space and Satanism in space, like Anton LaVey Satanism as like logic and ethic in Stoicism to replace the rules. And this whole thing though with the Prime Directive, right? It seems kind of Masonic because it's like the idea of we don't interfere unless you're ready. To be one, ask one. Like you have to like kind of join, and you have to meet us halfway, and all these things. We're not allowed to tell you.
Well, then the
motion
Omega
picture
Directive is like the inner circle, then, right? Because the Omega Directive can supersede the Prime Directive,
right? And often does. And
I feel like the motion picture is like the most Masonic of anything. Like that just feels like a Masonry movie all the way through.
Which one does?
The motion picture, the first one.
The first Star Trek motion one?
Yeah. That's like fully loaded. So... How many times are you going to see Metatron in that formation? I mean, it's thousands of times. Like, and I'm not even exaggerating. It's like, how many times can they show you that? Like, it's all the way through the movie.
Right.
Hey, I made this post about Oppenheimer's inspiration is based on David Bowie, and I kind of connected that because we're talking about this whole alien thing with the big head, right? Here, let me look it up. I was looking up the Facebook group.
Is this something that's admitted, or is this a connection that you're?
It's a connection that I kind of trying to establish, but hold on, let me show it to you so you get more visual.
There we go. Cillian Murphy, David Bowie, Oppenheimer.
Yeah, but hold on. Okay, let me just send you my tweet if I can find it.
This one, right?
Oh, I see what you're saying. You're saying that the
Oh,
actor
yeah.
used David Bowie, Man Who Fell to Earth, as an inspiration, or just David Bowie in general. Or what?
Yeah, so I just kind of directly thought about this whole Trinity testing is very similar to the weaponry. Well, the man who fell to Earth, right?
Mhm.
This thing's supposed to absorb the water to bring it to this planet.
Sphere cult.
So
Mhm.
it's got the sphere weaponry kind of concept, and I just thought that they said that the aliens, the gray aliens, pretty much started to show up after the Trinity testing 95, 97. That's when the white sands, the UFO started to show up everywhere, and they blasted them all down with the military radar. That was a white sands the UFO attack incident. So I don't know. I just find it really interesting that this was an inspiration. So I just kind of connected
By
too.
the way, Joe Alexander has some good videos speaking to that. The Roswell atomic connection.
Oh yeah.
Before he did Back to the Future Predicts 9/11, he produced a bunch of content related to that. Some of it may be lost from his Vimeo channel, but I think some of it's still on YouTube. Anyway.
Yeah, so all this big brain thing that we've been seeing on TV and in Star Trek, it's pretty much all came from from Lamb. When we go back to Aleister Crowley and his the book
His
of the law
depiction,
sessions in the pyramid, making contact with Iwas and Lamb. And it's the same exact visuals.
Right.
These
I
mega
just
brain,
saw
the
the
mega
outfit.
mind.
I can see it. He definitely looks like Bowie. What
Do you
about
remember the head? MTV's The Head. That always reminds me.
of
When I
course.
see Lamb,
Yeah.
that's the first
Classic.
thing I think
I was more into the Max though, even though it wasn't as good as
big
the
time.
comics. I was waiting for the head to end so I could watch the Max. Yeah.
Oppenheimer was born very soon. You're talking about Crowley and the Pyramid. He was born in April 1904. Just I don't know how many days right after Crowley's whole thing.
That is the year 1904. In April.
It's April. Yeah. So yeah, that's interesting. He shares a birthday with Jack Nicholson too for April 22nd.
Isn't there a line in the Book of the Law relating to the war machine thing? Build me a war machine or whatever. What is it?
Oh yeah,
do you know what I'm talking about? Yeah,
I
there's
don't know.
Some applicable line in there.
That would make sense.
The whole thing about that ritual is that he never closed it. It's left open. It's basically like it's like Ghostbusters. They just let this portal wide open. And everything started coming into this dimension.
I thought that was more what he was doing with his Abram Milne the Mange.
So we brought up Led Zeppelin on Base Day after they're talking about the Jimmy Page story, and so and Adam was like, "Well, the idea that Jimmy Page is a terrible guitarist, or he lost his guitaring ability." He doesn't believe that he finds it impossible because he saw Jimmy Page perform in the last 20 years and thought he was great. So I wonder, what do you think about the whole idea about Kenneth Angers and Jimmy Page and rejecting the Lucifer Rising ritual? I mean, do you think that something happened, or what do you believe?
I have a lot to say on that, but I'll try and give people room. I'm kind of tripped out, and I've been waiting for somebody to kind of clarify something for me, because when you look at what he produced for Lucifer Rising musically that came out years later, I'm like, it's a score that seems indistinguishable from Bobby Beausoleil's score. And I'm like, are they the same fucking score? Is it that? So here's I'm going to just jump ahead and just say, I've speculated that Jimmy Page may have seen what was happening there, and he just was like, bad PR, I don't want to be involved, wanted to detach himself, but had actually been maybe working with Bobby Beausoleil together, and that it wasn't like these two alternate things or whatever. They seem like they're the same. Have you guys listened to both?
Yeah, I mean, they do sound really similar. I felt like it was is Jimmy Page just doing it because he has to do it, so he's just repeating the ritual, and he's not being it's not special though. It doesn't feel like that powerful anymore. It feels like there's something getting lost in it.
I think he's just being an asshole. He's like, do it again. Maybe, but go back to the album cover. Go back to the album cover. That's animated, right? That's like
animated from Anheuser-Busch. That's adorable.
That's Bud Light.
I have the poster on my wall right here, framed. But yeah, here I can't remember.
Yeah, I mean, okay.
He's gonna find the poster.
Okay.
I'm gonna see if I can show it. I'm not sure if I can.
All right, there it is.
That's
There
awesome.
it is.
There you go.
Oh, nice.
It's pretty good in that room.
Dude, maybe Bud Light, the whole fiasco is a Lucifer Rising, this ritual.
It could be
We gotta
something
look
like
into
that.
this.
I mean,
Thomas, what are you talking about in the chat with the crying of Lot 49? What are you saying?
Yeah, I was about to pull up first off the movie.
Also, my tweet.
I'm gonna start with Are You a Mason? Oh yeah, do you want to do? I thought we looked at that.
Whatever.
But let's do it.
Oh, this is a different one. Different one.
Different one. Okay, let's do this first.
This one's kind of like weird to me. Let's see.
He shares a birthday with Crowley.
He does. He was born on Crowley's 111th birthday, like Bilbo Baggins.
My prophet is a fool with his 111.
See,
That's in the Book of the Law.
You got no problem against. You're not racist. You're just worried about numerology. That's all.
Oh, big time. Yeah. So, and that's also 666 plus 666 months. So, and so then this guy plays a crucial role in COVID. He's a whistleblower. He died of COVID early on, trying to. It's like a hero.
I
Like
know. Read all about this guy. Yeah,
he tried to warn people.
He's put on the life support for
Right.
for long.
What did
And
he
then-
say it was?
so-
an outbreak from the lab?
yeah. He said. Well, he didn't say that's.
I mean,
what
he sold the whole story that it's a respiratory illness that everybody's going to die, and
right,
he
but
himself.
he spoke to the lab. He was there. He was at. This is the guy who was at the lab.
Yeah. So
yeah.
And he was age 33.
yeah, so like as I say here, he died, and this is very specific, but that's me, dying on the 119th day after his 33rd birthday, and also he died 33 days before the day everything changed, which was March 11th when they declared the pandemic and shut everything down. So he died 33 days. But the Crowley thing was what we really couldn't believe.
And you know what? If you're gonna calculate these days, Alex, I really recommend you to keep October 18th, 2019 in mind, because that date is like syncing with everything that I know with Beetlejuice, Beetle guys, the dimming of the sun, and also there was Wuhan military war games also commenced that day. Also the Bill Gates, John Hopkins pandemic exercise, all
Okay,
October 18th.
I'll check it out.
Yeah, just see if there's any calculation to do with that.
Yeah, is there something personal for you, or is it just?
No. It's just that
There was
date
a lot
is
of
so
stuff.
significant. That's
Yeah.
the day when the whole world got locked down. I mean,
I think-
What people
not
don't really
locked down,
think
but-
about Beetlejuice is that it's not a planet, it's a star, and what that means is that it has solar flares. And so even from just like a flat earth or holographic universe perspective, solar flares are vibrations that change the 10-dimensional strings. But
All right,
from any
be
other
careful,
perspective-
guys. The word's been said twice, so that's it.
I could say
That's a
I
Beetle
can't
guys.
say that.
Wait, say it again, Thomas.
October.
No.
October 18th is
Oh,
Lee
you
Harvey
got,
Oswald's
you got a
birthday.
little
Just-
adrenochrome on your shirt there. Just,
And the movie's coming out this year, right? Is it coming out in November? The second
I mean,
Beetle movie.
here's
yeah.
the thing: we were being rude because Thomas had a thought. What was this? Are you a Mason?
Oh,
'Cause
the
if you think you are,
1915
you
one.
just might be.
If you do the 1915 version, yeah,
that looks great.
it's interesting.
John Barrymore.
because-
Oh, I think I might have seen this.
Really?
Yeah.
I never
He did
heard of
all
this.
kinds- He did all kinds of cool stuff. You know, John Barrymore's in, It's a Wonderful Life and this and that. Like he's.
And I believe the concept of this movie was that he pretends to be a Mason in order to like get ahead in his town or something. I haven't seen the full movie.
Oh, you don't want to do that. Tut. Are you?
I don't think
Mason?
I haven't found it on YouTube. If you
Oh,
find it, definitely
no.
let me know. I'm
I'll
still
be
searching
looking-
for this
I'll
one.
be looking for this thing. So he discovers his wife has a desire for him to become a Mason. Taking advantage of the opportunity, Perry goes out for several nights to carouse and have fun while telling his wife that he's undergoing initiations at the Masonic Lodge. When his wife invites her father, a Grand Master of the Masons, for a visit, Frank goes to comedic lengths to avoid being found out. The farce is magnified, but the circumstance his father-in-law has also been lying about his Masonic association. This seems like a great movie right here.
That's
I
where you
would
have to
love
marry
this.
a witch. Marry
Well,
the right person.
Well, yeah. So it seems to me like you said it, the porch mason, like the idea of presenting yourself for the clout, saying, "Hey, I'm good with the system. I'm with stupid." Like, so don't
Yeah,
get me in
everything's
trouble.
changed, man. It used to be that if you got pulled over for speeding or whatever, and you just kind of like, scratch whatever, and you got the Freemasonic ring on, the cop would see it and just be like, "Oh shit, I you be on your way, sir. I'm
There's
sorry.
still versions of that. Like, for
Yeah.
example, when I got out of the military, I kept my military ID in my wallet so that if I ever got pulled over and they were like, take your ID out, I'd have to like open the wallet up and see the military ID. And obviously, after it got so old, they changed the designs, and it was like, what are you trying to pull here? It's like a 10-year-old. But for a while, you'd see it, and they'd be like, oh, did you serve? And it was just like, free, get out of jail free ticket card.
Nice. My grandfather, I had like a lapel, and so my girlfriend at the time was wearing it at school, and so the bus driver saw it and had her sit in the front and charge her and just asked her where she got the lapel and like all about it. And I'd seen that happen like a number of times where someone goes out of their way if they see like a little like symbol just to find out like why you have it at very
Stolen
least.
valor.
Yeah, stolen valor, or what the deal is. Like, do you at least know where it comes from, or do you understand like anything about it? But I remember also being in Grass Valley and going by, there's like a yoga studio, and it's in the Freemason lodge. So the Freemason lodge yoga studio, and on the door is a flat earther sticker. And I just feel like things are not what people will tell you about any of it necessarily. What about global warming? So this is fun. People used to argue all the time about global warming on TV. They're like, no, I think it's just normal. But is it? Am I wrong, or do people kind of just accept it now as geoengineering and climate change? They're like, yeah, well, it's happening, but that's just short term. It'll. Didn't you see the dinosaur TV series, but not the last episode? Kind of a vibe. Like we're kind of getting into that. I don't know. I mean, I think that we talked on Based about the coral bleaching, and this where the heat and there's kind of an immune disorder that's causing coral to die out, and it's losing its color and things like that.
Probably,
but
from
there's been
like mercury in the water or something. Actually,
there's also I would imagine that chemtrails were allowed, and now that they're talking about them in the mainstream news, then we're allowed to admit that that's probably playing into this as well. So that's what I think is funny, that they're mainstreaming chemtrails. They're saying, yeah, we're changing the clouds, an unintended test of geoengineering.
But they always do. They say we're not doing this thing, and then when they finally come out and they're like, "We're doing it, but it was for the better. It was for the good."
Yeah.
And then you're like, and then there's always the virtuous lie. It's like, well, we had to say that because we didn't want people to get the wrong idea or whatever. It's
crisscrossing clouds known as ship tracks can be seen off the coast of Spain in this 2003 satellite image. With phasing out of high sulfur ship fuel, these reflective clouds have become scarcer. Yeah, well, ironically, we see them every day, all the time. So if that was scarcer, I don't know.
Speaking of weather change,
Tom was about to say something.
Well, I just want to say that the third component of that David was saying is that they'll be like, and the thing that we were trying inadvertently made the problem we were trying to solve worse. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
of course.
One of the proposals for the chemtrails out of the many was that some of it is like powdered aluminum, and that it could potentially reflect UV rays back out into space to like counteract climate change.
It's really bad for Alzheimer's too. All this aluminum is causing Alzheimer's everywhere. I mean, that is a key cause of Alzheimer's. Is
dude, how many years ago? When did they do that thing where they had all of those balls that they released into the reservoir in LA for LA's drinking water? They were plastic, and they were supposed to like protect from the sun, like to create help it last longer or something like that. And then
trying to slow the carcinogens from developing in
the
water.
And then I watched it happen. I saw the footage of them rolling them down into it, and you're like thousands of these fucking plastic balls, and I was like, this seems like an awful idea. But maybe the experts, they know. I was like 98% sure that that's just a really dumb thing to do. Turned out they melted, and they released toxicity into the drinking water directly.
That's why
and then you got to wonder.
That's why we have a lot of like transgender explosion right now.
And you're like, did they do it on purpose, or are they stupid? Because really, I only see two options. If you got a third, I'd love to hear it. You're either idiots or assholes. I'm not sure which.
It was the last mayor.
Idiots with
the last
assholes.
Mayor. I forgot his name. The Latino mayor. What's his name? That was his dumb idea. They kept using it. They just did it like a few months ago. Like what? We had. Yeah, anyways.
I just want to say this also reminds me of like this Hegelian dialectic aspect of when they're cleaning the oil off of the little baby ducks using Dawn, but Dawn itself is a byproduct of petroleum processing. So it's they're using oil to clean the oil.
Full circle.
I mean, like some of the things I've been thinking about recently are if they built this mirror, they can actually melt or shadow places, so they could cause complete devastation to places by removing sunlight from a place. And you don't necessarily need to use a solid material. You can use aerogels or cloud, right? So these aerogels in clouds are perfect. This is exactly what probably happened in North Korea that led to their drought. They had like a 20-year famine that was caused, and a lot of the papers show geoengineering by the CIA, and it's starting to look like this is part of the deal, like making sure that they have rain, making sure they don't have sunlight, making sure that they have problems in their agriculture. So I mean, this is something that could also be turned around, and we're showing how in France and Mexico and wherever they're using chemtrails to help the wine and the wheat. They're making sure there's consistency in agriculture. But where will this lead, right? Because I mean, I was looking at some stuff about like Soviet geoengineering, because I always think I've talked so many times about the Aral Sea as an example, but there was another one that was really good, the nuclear lake that they wanted to build. They were going to use nukes to build a river system, and they were going to open up, I think, if I could just find,
Are you talking about Tsar Bomba?
Lake Chagin. Is that right? I don't know. Yeah, created by the Chagin nuclear test conducted in the Soviet Union. So they had a few ideas after this. They're like, what we could do is we could just bomb our way through to the center, and then we'll create a way to divert any of the runoff of this fresh water that's going into the ocean. And then that'll save us all this fresh water. It saves billions or trillions of gallons of fresh water.
Well, isn't that just like an exaggerated version of what they already do with dynamite all over the place? Because I mean, they'll really like blow pathways to make it work, but this is taking it to another level, right? It's just like, well, just take a lot of dynamite. That would take a really long time, so we might as well just freaking do it all at once or something.
Just talking about water runoff, like in LA, it's not even legal to store water when it rains. I'm like, what's the problem here? All this water, we have a record raindrop earlier this year.
I mean, the problem is like if fresh water is going into the ocean and it's changing the heat of the ocean and it's causing certain currents, and all of a sudden those currents dissipate, then the water that's going to the north stops going to the north, which either freezes more because there's less warm water to cool it down, or it melts off and you have just open 100 years earlier than anticipated North Pole for the Russian, Aral Strait. So that would make things more accessible from the north, but that also would lead to rising sea levels. I mean, so there are like feedback loops. That's the thing.
Well, here's the problem.
And I feel like a lot of people, I just want to say, are, because they've heard so much propaganda about global warming, they're not really anticipating how violent and radical these feedback loops will actually be very soon.
And nobody even looks at the conveyor belts anymore. Conveyor belt in the north and southern hemisphere. That's what controls the weather. That's what conditions the El Nino, La Nina, whatever. But now it's just slowing down because the salinity of the ocean is changing, and it's basically becoming stagnant water, and that's it's becoming Deadpool.
The Dead Sea.
Yeah, it's becoming Dead Sea. Yeah, and all the
Great
chemicals
band.
that's pouring. So
there were these. So the Soviet engineers detonated nukes miles underground to put out gas well fires. Operation Plowshare is the American one.
Nukes are fake.
Well, I mean,
nukes are fake.
Alex, are you full convinced that I can't use radiation to, like? Do you want to look up like active denial resistance real quick?
I don't know what that is.
Isn't like a Wi-Fi antenna a nuclear device?
Yeah, but not an explosive.
Right, but but you believe in nuclear radiation and heat rays, right? Or
yes, I do. I do.
Yeah. So, but like, you're more of a, like, you don't think you can put that much energy into an explosion, or what? Not in a single place, or what?
I think I don't want to say I think anything. I think I'm like 60-80% somewhere. I try to be agnostic, to be perfectly honest, but I'm leaning towards the idea that basically the Trinity and Hiroshima bombings were hoaxes, essentially, and that nuclear science, the science of nuclear bombs, is bogus.
Do you think it's hoax or is it a different kind of bomb? Like
Yeah, I think it's just a bunch of. I think it's just a shitload of TNT
I feel like
and Lookout Mountain Laboratory.
The reason that I don't think that is because I believe in density of energy storage, and so the idea of radiation in dense storage makes sense to me because I've seen it explode in batteries. So if you can build this with lithium, there's no reason that naturally it can't occur in another kind of polar metal, especially an unstable metal.
I mean, I'm hesitant to talk about it because I'm not an expert, but this is a gut feeling I have. This is that I don't know. The whole narrative doesn't make sense. Why don't we have, for instance, go out, set one off, and get HD footage, put it all just like they
what about
did,
that kid who did
1945, and get some cameras, and then let's see a modern version of it.
Alex, have you heard about the Eric John Phelps? The Vatican assassin, the author.
Remember David Hawking built a radioactive bomb in his garage? Remember this kid? He was like a Mormon kid, and he like got all the stuff online because his parents bought him a chemistry set, and he finally went on the internet or whatever it was. Maybe it was before that because his Boy Scout. He ordered the stuff he needed, and then all of a sudden there was
built a nuclear reactor.
Yeah, and people figured it out because there was like extreme radiation coming out of the dude's house, and by the time that people figured that out and they quarantined the house, it was way too late. Like he was fried. Now, having said that, you can live in a radiated place because your body will adapt, but if you come in and go a lot, it's like getting in and out of the
does that explain the bears in Chernobyl?
Right,
that are like totally fine.
I mean, Hiroshima's fine. There's no.
Yeah.
So nobody heard of Eric John Phelps, of Vatican assassin, one of the original conspiracy authors about Vatican. But
no,
he said that the Hiroshima bombing was detonated from the ground. He said it was not dropped from the B-29s.
It's an inside job.
Look up. There's a book. Death Object. It's a book called Death Object. You should read, Andreas, or anybody. It's by an author, Japanese origin name, which hasn't done anything else. And that's what I read recently. That is a very persuasive, breakdown by someone who's pretty intelligent.
I'm a big fan of like the middle path. So I say that
like Apollo,
they're not as bad as oil.
Another
oil
thing might be that
oil companies want you to be afraid of nuclear power, so they make them sound like it's going to last forever. You won't be able to handle it. Yeah.
Another thing might be like they hadn't figured it out at that point. They faked it till they made it, basically, and they maybe figured it out later.
Well, you believe it till you achieve it. But what about energy drinks? Like,
I'm just sort of. I don't really understand
energy drinks. Like, because
I'm talking about radioactivity. I'm talking about the the light of 1,000 sun, the power of a star unleashed upon the world. I think that the threat of nuclear apocalypse is a psyop, basically.
Yeah, method of control. I can agree to certain point. And comparing to the lunar landing, right? So
it's exactly the same thing.
It's like the American we're in the rush, to raise. There's a space race, and of course we got an atomic race, right, against the Soviet Union. So everything we're going against the Soviet Union is like, we got to make something up right now, and and then the Soviet Union kind of follow our footsteps.
It's an excuse for endless war and the Cold War and the whole 20th century thing and everything leading up to what we're doing now.
Hey, can I get a little syncy for a second? Can you guys give me like two minutes to just say some shit?
Let's talk about sync.
Okay, so where we get the term bombshell in regards to a lady is because of the bomb in the Crossroads Project. What is it?
That's Abel and Baker, right?
Right. So they wrote Gilda on the bomb, right? Which is a reference to the Rita Hayworth film Gilda, where she sings the song "Put the Blame on Mame." And so "Put the Blame on Mame" is a scene that was recreated in Who Framed Roger Rabbit for Jessica Rabbit's song, where she says, "Why don't you do right like some other men do?" which is kind of a satirical response to "Put the Blame on Mame," because "Put the Blame on Mame" is basically blaming women for all these terrible events. So like the Chicago fire and these different things. And they're like, and really it was this woman's fault. And so there's indication that when they put Gilda on the bomb, it was kind of a statement on men's sexual frustration, or whatever. But I find it interesting that it's like that's where we get the term, like somebody's a bombshell. Also Bikini Islands, right? Because of nuclear testing, because it's explosives, because the bikini was explosive and fucking Gildo is Rita Hayworth was explosive. And so, but there's a thing where it's like we got a Barbie movie. We keep on saying Barbenheimer or whatever. And it's like, so is here, this is kind of all over the place. But isn't it interesting that like Sharon Tate was in Valley of the Dolls? The dolls were the women and they were the pills, and they make it apparent at the beginning of the film the way that they're like they show the women like turn into pills and then like when they fall over or whatever, and so they're
how they're addicted to barbiturates.
Did you see Barbie, David?
exactly because that was a thing, is that they were doing a play on what's Dorothy, what's her name, Wizard of Oz lady,
Judy Garland.
Judy Garland. So they had Judy Garland showing up to do these tests for Valley of the Dolls. She would stay all day. She'd show up early, stay there all day, and by the end of it, she was so drugged out and drunk because they just kept on feeding her supposedly pills and alcohol, and they had no intention of actually using her in the film itself. They were looking to take her mannerisms, and you can see it in the film when I'm spacing on the name of the other actress in this, but I saw an interview with her talking about some of this stuff. God, what's it? I can't think, but anyway, the dolls.
Did you see Barbie, David?
What's that? I haven't.
Did you see Barbie? Do you know how it starts? Do you know the whole?
I watched Shu's presentation on. I think we talked about it last week, maybe.
Well, it starts with a whole 2000.
Oh, the 2001 intro, and it ends with it in a weird way too. So that was the thing. They kind of tied it together with like the evolution thing. But like, I just want to say, like, it's interesting to me that it's like we're talking nuclear. And we're talking Barbie, and like that's right now.
Oppenheimer's daughter was David Martin's art teacher for a year in New Mexico. Whoa,
far freaking out, man.
Also, I sort of found it interesting that the very infamous, it's famous / infamous, the story Xirtus, which was made into the anti-Semitic film by the Nazi regime, directed by Kubrick's step uncle or whatever.
Where's my car?
Was what the hell was I gonna say? Fuck.
Sorry.
I know it's one of those. But like, I just want to say, like, Margot Robbie, she playing Barbie, and she played Sharon Tate, and it just so happens that Sharon Tate has this fucking Malibu Barbie.
Which one were we talking about?
And her last movie was Babylon, where she's like basically the Scarlet Woman, essentially.
Okay, so now you guys said three things. Okay, Babylon.
I forgot what I was going to say. That was embarrassing.
If you look at it, okay, so Margot Robbie pretty much put it together. Like I said about like space race and nuclear race, everything has to do with the sex ritual. I mean, this is all Babylon working. Does. I mean,
sex is in everything anyway. That's truth be told.
I better turn this into moderate search.
And having seen Oppenheimer, the only time that he quoted that I become death. That quote, he said it when he was having sex.
Yep, no, that's bad.
I remember now. The character of Oppenheimer, the name, the story should say.
Kubrick talked a lot about rockets being phallic symbols, and the idea of also like there's all these
rocket,
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's all part of the same thing. Yeah. But the main character in Xirtus is named Oppenheimer. So, and it's like about his persecution, and so that's what Oppenheimer, the whole story. It's almost like that's what they're making out of the whole atomic bomb story, is that this guy is like a martyr of some kind, or like, like the scene where he and his alcoholic wife don't want their kid anymore, and they give it away to their friend, and the guy's like, "You're just so beyond us all. You're just in a world that's so it's okay. Just don't worry. We'll take your child." It's just the whole movie is this hagiography,
like Altered States, though. That's exactly what they did.
Yeah.
Was he a saint? Was he a saint?
That's how it treats him, kind of.
It's an
like
hagiography. Okay, far out.
Hey,
I mean,
speaking of Sharon Tate, did you guys hear about the door, the Cielo Drive door? It was put on sale, and the who was it? It was it was Sharon Tate's family. Yeah, the sister was trying to take it to court. Something like
I don't think it's the same door. I think it's a scam. I think that door was lost in the flood when Trent Reznor lost his place. And you look at the door, the two pictures of the doors, and it's like they don't look the same. It looks like
there's no pigment. There's no pigment.
I got a random
Mm.
synchronicity recently. So an Italian man was crushed to death by falling wheels of cheese, and then like similarly, nacho cheese spilled, creating a zesty traffic hazard on the Arkansas highway. So I don't know. It's like it seems dangerously cheesy this week. Does anybody have any thoughts?
Are we gonna have a cheese
No,
crisis?
no, that's not cheese. All right, that's fine. Two's enough. Two.
Oh no,
two-
I made a sync. No, I did post about that. I made a kind of wacky sync.
You got something? All right, what you got?
Yeah, I'm trying to. It's just funny that you brought that up. I'm trying to look for it.
There's also the Tahoe foot rubber who got arrested finally. They found this guy who was sneaking into homes and rubbing people's feet. It's like, man, just get on a Greyhound. Like, what are you even doing with your life?
It's like the ass crack bandit in Community.
I
haven't seen Community.
Yeah, there's.
He's still looking for the cheese thing.
I'm a more
Dude that
the
sneaks
rest
around
of
and
them.
takes like a quarter and gets when you're bent over and just like gets you with the quarter in your crack. And so
Okay.
you're like, it's just the most disturbing, awkward, like really annoying thing.
Federal
man.
court released True the Vote leaders from jail. People that were talking about, Texas right wing, all this stuff about the voting, fraud and election stuff. I guess you're allowed to talk about it finally. Let's see how well that really goes. But I mean, so they're starting to let people start to say, hey, what do you think about electile dysfunction? And I feel like we have a big problem with electile dysfunction in this country.
Dude, I just saw my favorite WikiLeaks today. I've seen
Yeah,
a lot of
what you got?
WikiLeaks. So it's if you go to my Twitter, I think it's in one of the more recent.
You just
things
dead named X, and we don't abide. But yeah,
Right.
So if we go to your X.
just a little bit further down. It's on my tweet where I'm
Your
I'm-
X. You
okay,
X'd it.
Where is it? Is it
Actually,
no,
it's
that's-
sad because they're still dead naming themselves. They haven't really fixed this
right.
yet.
So
Yeah,
just
shame on
where oh shit, where is it? It was a reply to my own tweet about RFK.
Let me
I
go
don't
to
think it got
replies.
removed.
Maybe it's in replies.
Forget
specifically.
about the cheese thing.
Yeah, you see me
It's
talking
dumb.
shit here. Where's the
Not very familiar. 9:15.
I thought it was more recent than that, but no, it's just I can actually see it up in the upper corner, but there's that one. But
You saw it?
it's
Found it?
it should be one of those.
Which
No,
one
the
is it?
top one, middle. Not that. That's amazing though. But yeah, no, next to that, that's the middle one. Sorry, I think it's
This
is it
one?
that one? Yeah, there it is.
Oh, okay.
So this is a WikiLeaks. You guys probably have seen this, but they basically just kind of laid out their strategy in 2015 and referred to Donald Trump and company as Pied Piper candidates. So
Oh.
they're just it sums it all up as far as I can tell. Like as far as like I don't need another WikiLeaks as far as that election went. Because you can just see that they shot themselves in the fucking foot. Because they're like their whole strategy was that is right here how they will, basically they're going to undermine the credibility of the Republicans by having to try and encourage them to be as extreme as they can so that they can increase their chances of winning. But they lost. And so it's like you can see this in like interviews with Soros and stuff, how arrogant they were at that time of like, we got this in the bag. And there's this strategy here, and this isn't the only time. It's not just this election. The Democratic Party has been funding like the more extreme right-wing candidates because they believe that it'll help that it be easier for them to win. But then it ends up backfiring. It's very MK Ultra in that way. Backfire comes to mind,
Hmm.
What do you think about Soros' son? Was it Alex Soros? What's his name? He's a bit of weirdo. I mean, I don't know.
What about him?
He can't even. He has some like he has some. I mean, I have some speech impediment, but this guy's speech problem is so severe. It's like I cannot sit through his whole interview because he would just like.
I watched the boys use that. Give me another reason.
Oh, I just don't think he's capable of taking over his dad's business. I just don't think he can.
I mean, I don't think anyone needs you to speak for your business anymore if your business isn't about making money, but about exploiting people and,
There you go.
breaking down borders, right? Like he's all about background stuff, and he's just an engineered machine at writing legislation and working in the background with the Austrian, president, prime minister, local manager, whatever you call him.
Have any of you guys read any books by Zizek?
Not really. I did
I've read
like
some essays.
yeah, I've read essays and I've read some of his like Pervert's Guide to Cinema.
Yeah, he's so crazy prolific. I've wanted to read a book, but then I look at his books and there's just like 50 of them. I'm like, oh, what do I don't know.
really
If
like
you had a
waiting.
recommendation,
I'm
I'd
really
take it.
waiting because like what he's working on right now, and like, I would always say reading his essays makes sense, but it's interesting right now because he's really like I think he's pushing limits finally because he's like, well, I think you all know where I stand. And I don't think people do. A lot of people will be like, oh, wait, we can cancel anybody. And he'll be like, yeah, well, cancel an old communist then. See what I'd care. Because like I think that's
Right.
but he's been pushing a lot of the time saying, I think that we talked about this a bit before, that the left used to be all about being inclusivist to try to bring like, hey, we take anybody who
Right.
isn't part of the collective.
Right, and diplomatic too, like basically
Yeah.
party line stuff.
He-
Yeah,
you
yeah.
Trying to
Remember when he
learn how to communicate.
He
Tupac.
debated Jordan Peterson, and then they wound
Well,
up just agreeing on everything.
Yeah, I wouldn't call
Kind
that a
of.
debate.
Actually, what happened was Jordan Peterson kind of was just like, wow, I came here for a particular debate. This isn't the debate that I got. I had all these prepared bullet points to speak to communism, and you're making a more nuanced, deeper point here. I can't, So he
that's
actually
what
handled
happens
that
when
really
people
well.
actually talk
Yeah.
to each other, and
I think that's the other thing is that because people always associate communism with the practicality of Stalinism, and Zizek is from Yugoslavia, so he's really talking about like a socialism that was incorporated a lot. Oh, we lost Thomas. Hopefully, it wasn't the socialism.
I know.
But I mean,
He's like, I'm out. Fuck this.
Yeah, right. But he did try to like explain that there's like subtle differences between. I mean, and how far do you go? And also because I think Peterson being Canadian, he can't help but he was a democratic socialist. He can't help but secretly be kind of a communist. And so I feel like did he lose on purpose almost? But then it looked like his life was destroyed. So I think he really did take that hard. The way it went.
I
so
feel
maybe he did.
bad for Jordan Peterson. I don't know why.
Yeah,
everybody,
after that,
attacks him so hard. It's
well, yeah, I mean,
kinda
you have to
disgusting.
sympathize with he's just a community college professor that got like a magnifying glass put on his
right.
face.
So true, literally. The
But-
focus, the sun,
I
he was
don't-
being burned.
You gotta just marvel at Zizek because Zizek's room is clean. You know what I mean? He doesn't have to worry about the thought of cleaning his room. He already is. He's Slovenian, so it's just. I mean, but he has a speech impediment, and I think that's his only issue.
He has a tick too,
Yeah,
and
he's a
it's-
nervous
Who
tick, so it
care?
makes
Who
it
gives a
harder.
shit? I think it makes him more interesting. I don't care.
Yeah,
Or
I
maybe not
kinda-
even that. It just does whatever. But yeah.
You should
we
look at the tweet on my in the private chat I sent.
Okay, let me see what I got
Did
here.
Thomas leave? Because is he seriously?
Definitely, I couldn't possibly be because of that.
No.
I couldn't imagine. Okay.
No.
Let me see where you sent
It's
this. Where is
basically
this?
about the Mark Margolis. Just this. It's in the
Where
private
is it?
chat on this StreamYard page.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Is it Mark? Okay. Open and go.
Relating to pi and this is just
Oh,
a
yeah,
crazy.
I saw this. Yeah.
And and the way it tied into the whole Angus Cloud Mac Miller thing I was talking about last week is just
Don't
like
worry, Thomas. We're done
mind-blowing.
talking about communism. God. Just kidding.
So yeah, I was watching. Like I said last week, I was doing Angus Cloud, Mac Miller, and thinking about MM, and then Mark Margolis dies, and he's the guy in Pi, Aronofsky's Pi, who's David. You know more about that movie than me, but right? He's like what is his role in that movie?
He's like his teacher. I mean, he's his friend, and he's his
Right.
teacher. So
He's like the guy that he goes to receive like the meaning of the number 216. And then as this guy on Twitter, Luke Johnson, pointed out that he died on the 216th, or at least they announced his death on the 216th day.
You know that his name
year.
is Saul, right? In the movie.
Saul,
So,
right.
Like SOL, I think. I
Like
don't
Saul
know.
Goodman.
Right. So there you go. Like that. It's yeah.
Son.
And
Because 237 is the gematria of Gavora, which although like we would say European occultists equate that with Mars. But if you're looking at it just simplistically, like you have the sun and the moon as far as the pillars go of the lower worlds, and so for all intents and purposes, that's the sun as well. So
Well, also, it's 2
The 6 by 6 by 6.
Yeah, 666 is actually the number of the sun magic square.
Yeah,
right,
exactly.
Yeah,
So
Right.
so then Ronald Walker pointed out that Mark Margolis had been in an episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation, titled "A Matter of Perspective," and And a matter of perspective equals 237 in regular gematria. And as I found out, everything that in ordinal gematria equal to 237 reduces to 93. If you can open the picture, you can see it. But
Saturn is ordinal 93, isn't it?
It's related to it somehow. I couldn't say how at the moment. But anyway, but the clincher is that this episode, A Matter of Perspective, season 3, episode 14, Pi.
Wow, that's a that's a trip. Wow, and so I think I commented on this tweet.
Well, just add a little more. That tied in, since it tied in with Angus Cloud and everything. Mac Miller, that the day Angus Cloud was born was the same day Pi was released. In theaters, literally. So, like, I'm sorry, I'm not really being very articulate.
That's crazy.
Right now.
Yeah,
I wish Twitter was more organized, or I was more organized. But yeah, so one thing after another, building up this traffic jam of coincidence that doesn't even feel like coincidence. Honestly, it feels like something. It feels planted. I don't know by what or by who, but it does.
All about that gives you a clue.
Got to keep eyes on Drake. He discovered both of those.
Yeah, I looked into him too. There's some crazy stuff involving his birthday.
Thomas sent this link earlier. It's PatCon, the FBI's secret war against the Patriot movement, and how infiltration tactics relate to radicalizing influences. Is it that first scene of that Michael Moore movie, or what were we talking about? PatCon? What's
no,
this?
So David was talking about the WikiLeaks and the HRC and how they wanted to radicalize the right wing nominees to just, you know, and I implore everyone that cares anything about like all of that sort of persuasion, but if you're into Waco, OKC, Ruby Ridge type of stuff, if you look at this FBI program called PatCon, that, you know, and it ended a long time ago, but they basically were just sending people into these right-wing organizations and just cranking the volume up to 11. Hey, you guys want some meth? Hey, want to throw some cocaine on this fire?
Right.
And
It's a straw man tactic. They want to exaggerate the hell out of the opposition so that it'll just appear ridiculous and people will go along with the lesser evil.
And there's this comical aspect of Elohim City, which is apparently where Timothy McVeigh got radicalized. But Elohim City, there's a very high chance that there was more alphabet undercover agents in Elohim City than there were right-wing extremists. So you might have had like FBI and CIA and ATF guys all like coordinating and trying to set the other ones up because they weren't coordinating outside, right? So they thought they were all extremists. And they're all like, let's build this thing. And the other guy's like, great, I can get this. And the other guy's like, oh, I can get this. You know what I mean? And they're all going back to report. And really, it was just like the government creating problems and then solving the problems.
Hey, are you, Thomas, do you know about the guy with the 1993 bombing of the World Trade Center, who was apparently, there was an FBI informant that actually helped build the bomb, and then like
Uncle
there's
Yassad,
like can you share a snippet about that, what you know, because that was fucking crazy what I saw.
So they apparently foiled a previous attempt where they were strapping explosives to like some of the support pillars inside like one of the parking garages or something. Actually, there's a TV show, Class of 09, that kind of like plays on this a little bit, where they do it to the FBI headquarters.
This isn't the 1993 bombing, or what?
Even that one was kind of a failed bombing too.
So this was the failed one.
Yeah. But the guy who helped build the bomb for it was an FBI informant who was assisting them, and then
Salem, whatever.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, FBI informant who helped build the bomb.
Okay.
Correct. So and you know, McVeigh and Nichols. McVeigh in particular, there's a lot of interesting theories. There's a book
built
called,
under the supervision by the FBI.
There was a book called Heartland of the Real, I think, and it's about Timothy McVeigh, and they consider that he was sheep dipped, and that when he got into the service, they basically trained him to be like a secret intelligence agent, and he was maybe not radicalized as much as like trained to do this one specific thing. And it doesn't help that Jolly West pops into the picture at the very end, where Lewis Joyton West actually interviews McVeigh after he gets caught, which, I mean, dude, the guy's been in the same room as like Jack Ruby and McVeigh. It's
totally
ridiculous.
And and he was godfather to Charlton Heston's son.
Right, right.
And,
What?
and
Moses himself.
Yeah, dude,
Andy was buddies with William Friedkin, who just died, the director of The Exorcist.
Oh, yeah.
Out of
Basically,
my
he's-
cold dead hands.
so I've got a tweet about that too.
Have
Which
have
is-
any of you guys heard?
Have you
I
guys seen Killer
swear
Joe?
I swear that I've seen this, but I wanted to. There was a Charlton Heston documentary about Hollow Earth. Has anyone here heard or seen this? I want to be sure it's not a fever dream, but I am like, I would put money down that I saw this at some point in my past.
Was
What,
it
is it
from like the
documentary or what?
Christian perspective of Hollow Earth? Like, was it
might
the
have been. It might
Yeah.
have been, but they were talking about like elevators that go to different places and like little like advanced
Mysterious
Technology.
Origins of Man with Charlton Heston.
Oh, that might be it, man.
Looks like it
That
is,
might
yeah.
actually be it.
Yeah, that makes sense. So that was the other thing that's kind of interesting to me with like, so in the Star Trek, the original episode, they go to Talos, which is it's spelled differently, but Talos is also the name of the under Hollow Earth Shasta secret civilization. That's Atlantis, Lemuria civilization that's supposed to be under California. Or also that since it's under the earth, it could like pop out different places, of course. But
like
that you can get-
Shasta, for example?
But yeah, you can get there from Shasta, and that the gold rush, a lot of the gold in California is supposed to come from Talos, right? And there's also, like Greek philosophy for that root word as well. But it comes up over and over again. They came up in Star Trek, and then also that they're talking about Agartha and Talos, and this the roots to the Hollow Earth. But yeah, it looks like this is it. The Mysterious Origins of Man.
Yeah, you just blew my mind,
Oh,
bro.
that
I've been
sounds
trying to
good.
remember what this was for the longest time, and it has Charlton Heston essentially talking about Hollow Earth at some point, and yeah, I can't believe we found this.
All right, we'll have to
Oswaldo
watch
Rivera.
this. Dude, Geraldo Rivera, though, he's looking for road maps.
That's Oswaldo.
Oh, okay. What about Matthew McConaughey?
Oh yeah, this is This is Friedkin, the same director as The Exorcist, who just passed away. Have anybody seen this? Killer Joe.
Yeah, a long time ago. Yeah,
It's a pretty demented film, same as all of his movies, really. But so the story of this movie is Matthew McConaughey, another double M. He basically plays the devil in the form of like a hitman who's all dressed in black. He's a man in black, and he comes upon this family, and they eventually owe him a debt, and he wants their like virginal sister, who's played by Juno Temple. And Juno Temple's like as a name has always like been weirded me out because it's Jupiter Mission, basically. Same, it's like synonyms for Jupiter Mission, which is the 2001 Space Odyssey thing. So basically the movie unfolds and it ends with basically that a child is conceived. I'll just say that much. And in this, you get the sense that it's about like this is the conception of the Antichrist, essentially, that you probably see in Exorcist or whatever.
Or he was like responding to the Omen, I think.
Yeah,
because it was like the Omen was responding to Exorcist, and I think he was responding to Omen. I don't know about the timing, might be wrong, but
maybe
yeah, pretty sure.
Well, if you I just did this little numerological thing between these three people, and I'll just read it if you pull it up, Andreas, because it's better that way if I can. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, Matthew McConaughey. Now this one was kind of weird, but it's true. Works out. Check it out for yourself. 153 times 0.666666 repeating days old. And Juno Temple / Jupiter Mission was 23 years 7 days old when Killer Joe released in the USA. Juno Temple was born 18 days, aka 6 + 6 + 6 days, into the 237th month of MM's life. And then Friedkin died 4,029, which I happen to know is 6,066 minus 2,037. He died that many days after Killer Joe was released. So this movie is like dark and like it's charged as hell.
Juno Temple's weird. She's weird looking. You know, she pretends to be American or British, and she's like neither. She's from space.
Exactly.
So,
Yes, it's kind of nailed. She's going to be in the new Fargo season too, which is delayed now, but which is always about aliens.
Dude,
deeply.
just like also, I didn't notice this earlier, but remember we're talking about how this episode is dedicated to Travis because it's Travis's Yeet episode. Because it's been 12 months. Thank you, Travis. And he sent on top of this all a super chat anyway, which is cool. So Yeet back at you. He said they give you, and he's informing us. They give you 32 degrees in Scotch Rite. They gave it to my dad in the mail. Yeet. So there you go. You can get to the 32. if you like to do. I mean, that's the thing you can do. But
And-
they're not allowed to talk about some things.
I want to say in 2020, maybe 2019, 2020, when the pandemic first hit, there was one particular lodge in the Scottish Rite that offered the full 32 degrees by attending a webinar. So if you just watched like a 4 to 6 hour presentation on the internet, by the time it was over, they would confer the degrees to you, through Zoom, basically.
Are they just like the Catholic Church now? They just don't have enough members, and they're just like, how do we?
Oh, big
just
time.
Keep
Big time. Big
And you
time.
need people
Let's
to
go
run
get-
that.
Have you read Dianetics? You're coming.
Right. Diuretics. Book will change your life.
Why do you think you were saying before there's like a yoga studio inside a temple and they like rent them out to music? I mean, like they can't afford that prime real estate at this point. If you go inside of a lot of them, unless it's in major city, they're kind of like deteriorating and they're
You got to rent them out, and who wants to rent them if they're not in like them? But like weddings, roller rinks, like you can do cool things with them. So I think that's just hope that people care at all to be in public spaces.
Ooh, I like the idea of the Masonic roller, the temple roller rink with the. They're still standing in there with a checkered floor and just.
I did that once, really close to your house. Or one of them, like in over by Seabright, by the New Brighton Elementary School.
Yeah,
the Freemason Hall there. We had a roller party.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, far out. Yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah.
So, like, it can be done. Like, you can roller skate in a Freemason lodge. Like, that's basically what they want you to do.
You can play disco in the background. What kind of music you play?
Of course.
New life goal is I want to rollerblade in a Masonic lodge at some point.
Yeah. See, like, once you've done everything, like,
and
it makes you wonder more.
I want to join Bill's snowbellins.
We're gonna start a new group called E-Masonry. It'll be open source. Anyway, the crying of Lot 49. What was Thomas sending this? What is this about?
We were talking other Masonic movies. This is what the movie The Game was based on. One of the best movies.
Well, wait. I would contest that. Why it's not a. It's a different story. It's completely different. Actually.
Well, that's how Hollywood works. Actually, that makes a lot of sense to me.
I guess I've never heard that said. Just because I know I've read, I've seen the game and I've read the book.
Right. What made you say that, Thomas?
Yeah. I mean, I thought this was actually like a conventional knowledge type thing. I would almost bet if you went onto the game Wikipedia page,
I would say like influenced by, because it's like I say, it's a totally different. It's I mean, it's similar vibe maybe, but.
It basically sets the tone that like you can't trust anything going on. This is before Tartaria existed, right?
Sure.
Like you can't trust anybody at all. And I just wanted to point out that particular book also mentions Freemasonry. It mentions LSD. It mentions all sorts of interesting paranoid fiction.
This is Pynchon. He's the author creme de la creme of like paranoid, conspiracy-minded literature.
Is this a huge recommendation, The Crying of Lot 49? I've heard it referenced so much, but
it's great, and you can read it really. It's a pretty slim little volume. You could read it in a day or two.
Bizarre Saturnalian plunge into the underground. Come on, that sounds good.
It's about Oedipus. the main character is Oedipus Mass. She's basically a suburban housewife. And actually, I've got this weird theory relating Thomas Pynchon to Kenneth Grant and stuff that I could maybe talk about at some point. But Lot 49, Liber 49, the Book of Babylon. Jack
I gotcha. Yeah.
Pynchon worked for Boeing. He was like an aerospace engineer for Boeing. He hung out in the Laurel Canyon scene, but he's also a reclusive hermit. So nobody really, I mean, there's pictures, but they're very bootleg, blurry. He's like been able to hide himself very well from press. So yeah, anyway, I know I've read all his books. So
we caught it.
Okay.
This is this guy. Yeah.
And another interesting Thomas
3 pictures of him.
author Paranoia was the guy that wrote the Magic Toaster, right? Or the Brave Little Toaster.
Really?
And if you didn't know about this, he's got a book called 334, which is like it's an incredible premise. So the premise of 334, it relates to 334 AD, which is the fall of Rome.
Okay.
But it takes place in this apartment building, 334. And it basically has all these little miniature stories. So some of the stories, one's called Bodies, about moonlight body snatchers catering to a necrophiliac brothel. Another one's called Everyday Life in the Roman Empire, where a government worker decides where to send her son to school, pursues a parallel existence in a hallucinogenic assisted role-playing game. They've got emancipation. They've like it has the most incredible stories
That sounds
inside
like
of
the
this.
dish or the game.
Well, and again, this was the same author as the Brave Little Toaster series, so I just feel like it elevated my
Well,
that's
impression
great.
of the Brave Little Toaster.
That's like one of the
highly.
best freaking movies
We
ever
got to get
made.
Mr. Douglas to audiobook 334, and what's the other one? The sequel to 101 Dalmatians.
Oh, the Twilight
102
Barking.
Dalmatians.
The Twilight Barking. Have you seen? You guys remember that, right?
I don't know that.
Oh,
And there is a
Thomas brought
movie
this up.
for this.
Apparently-
As I hear a dog barking in Twilight right now.
Apparently, a Starlight Barking. So apparently, there's
Starlight
a
Barking.
sequel to 101 Dalmatians. What's it about again? Like
Well, it
serious?
actually on the Wikipedia it says it right there. It says that the dogs, they can communicate through thought waves only. They can control electronics with their minds, and that this dog god from the Sirius star system comes to Earth and says that nuclear holocaust is about to happen. It's going to wipe out all the humans, and he gives the dogs two options. One, you can stay with the humans and try to help them, or two, you can all go back with me and become like star gods in the Sirius system. And the dogs decide we're loyal to our humans, we're humans' best friend, we're going to stick around and we're going to save them. And they also don't have to walk anymore. They can basically zip around at like supersonic speeds, just hovering like inches off the ground. So that's the Starlight Barking.
Hire us,
awesome.
Disney. Thomas and I are gonna make
I'll
the
read
best
that.
movie you've ever seen.
What? And there's a movie called
That is
Good
in the
Boy, but it's
storyboards.
a horrible movie. Like they did not do this story justice.
No, we gotta
They
take this to the
cranked
next
out a
level.
crappy one.
No, this could be like $140 million motion picture. I can see it.
Mhm.
Okay, we're pretty much at the end. Let me just really quickly show Paranoid Americans comic book. Wait, actually, is there anything you guys want to make sure you show? And also, Eddie, do you have anything you wanted to show? Because I didn't go nothing to Synchronous. Or
Yeah, there's quite a bit of
Let me-
headlines. if you want
let me
to
go
through.
back to let me go back to the Synchronous for a second, though. I know I was just like, but
There's some
did a
interesting
lot.
stuff.
Yeah.
But,
Paul Rubens before Derek for real. I told you. I said Derek for real today. Someone was like, "Dude, for real?" I was like, "Derek for real." Like I said, I still say it. It's rings true.
but we saw that one.
U.S. scientists gain energy gain for second time in nuclear fusion reaction. We're gonna have cold fusion. We're gonna have quantum computers this next month. Come on, it probably exists. It's probably running right now, and they just can't tell you. They're like, "Oh, we got it for a few seconds." That means it's already working. Oh, everyone's been talking about this. I think we knew this a month ago, but did we not say it on the show?
Well, it's kind of like a media confirmation.
Tiffany
of what
Gomez
she really
was,
is.
she was really like a marketing executive, which is good. Good for her. You know,
I'm pretty sure
She's
she's not
having a
in
bad
trouble.
day.
she's had a bad day. I don't know. I mean, the point is, she figured out a way of making marketing. We should meet her. I was already thinking that, and then now people are like, "Oh, she's fake." I'm like, "Yeah, we should meet her even more." Because she's, you know what I mean?
There'll be a lot of guys going to tune in.
Not for that reason. Come on, I'm not.
It's so ironic though that she's famous for saying that someone's not real, and now people are like, "No, you're not real."
Yeah,
It was inevitable.
It's a Spider-Man.
Hey, new
point or
Joseph
something.
Farrell book. Go get that.
People, please send money.
this-
Please send money because I want to swim in Hearst Castle again. You know, you can do
Oh.
this
Mm.
for like an hour once a year if you know somebody works there, or you can pay $1,000 to be a plebe and go get into the pool. But you know,
so
only
I
lucky.
I thought it was a funny, sort of a sync because of Voyager 2 kind of lost signal last week. Right? And it's the only thing that got in contact with Neptune. So right after it got back, the signal got back, and also Hearst Castle's offering.
That's not the pool I care about, though. I want to swim
No?
in this pool. This is my favorite Hearst pool, the one that has it's like gold-plated mosaics and, bruh. I mean, come on, and you know how it would be. You know how. It would
Yeah, totally.
All right.
The chip in.
Yeah. I mean, I think about what it would be like to live at Hearst Castle way too much, I think. Sharon Tate's sister slams auction of mansion, cello murder house, pig front door. I mean, didn't they do that already for Trent Reznor?
Fly,
Reznor
kite,
bought the
steal.
door. Trent Reznor had the front door, I thought.
Yeah,
So this is
and
the
then
side
it
door.
went to his studio in New Orleans, and then there was the flood. And so if you look at those photos there, I don't know if I
Did the
buy it.
Katrina flood? Did he lost it?
They're
during
supposed to. The
Katrina?
auctioneers gave like an outline of how they ended up with the door, but I think I think it's bullshit.
We're gonna have to bring up AI Beatles next time, I think, but that's gonna be worth talking about.
Paul McCartney, he's basically making money off of him. It's just crazy.
Good. I hope he does, because then eventually he'll be dead, and then all that money's gonna.
They're
go
gonna.
where,
He's gonna be frozen before he dies. Cryogenically. They do that. Hal Finney did that. So, which I wouldn't ever want to do, but I think McCarthy would. He'd want to come back.
McCarthy.
Yeah.
McCarthy.
Magic
The Floydian flip.
Joe
Yeah,
McCartney.
It's Paul McCarthyism.
Okay, if you scroll back up, the one that Jamie Foxx made, I mean, I don't know, it's kind of controversial. No, the black and white text. He made this one. So he made this anti-Semitic whatever comment, but he took it down.
Oh, but the thing is, it wasn't the Jews; it was the Romans. So this is really anti-Italian, right? And
He's talking about Barabbas.
I'm calling the
gave him-
Anti-Italian Defamation
Who's
League. So
Jesus?
they should really sue the Anti-Semitic Defamation League for monopolizing every single hate crime. It's not
right.
You know?
No, it was Pontus. They gave him the option if they had Barabbas, which means son of the father, or they gave him Jesus, and they chose Barabbas. And my thing is, I'm like, dude, we never met Barabbas. Like Barabbas could have been the shit at that time. Like we don't even know
Barabbas
and how bad things would have gotten if they would have crucified Barabbas instead.
It was probably like T-Pain or like 50 Cent or somebody like that. Like, but
can you imagine the religion that we would have? Because we don't know what kind of figure Barabbas was. So if like they made a religion out of Barabbas, who knows where the world would be? So that's the thing.
They did that. The Mithra cults, and then Dionysus and the Bacchus celebration was.
Is this like Life of Brian?
Dude,
yeah, I think
what
people miss is that people were really into celebrations before this, and we're actually in the process of de-escalating even from the Roman mythology. So Christmas, Easter, like saints' holidays, these are actually still like in the process of de-escalating from the Roman culture, but the Roman whatever that is. But we're really talking about Dionysian Mithras cults where people would have these huge feasts, these huge fasts, like they'd starve themselves for a while in order to like cause a storm at somebody, or they'd eat a bunch of food and then they'd have like orgies and they would eat like flesh of each other and the Saturnalian things, right? They'd have these reverse rituals as well. And who knows? Not everyone did. Not everyone did vomitoriums, but some people did do vomitoriums who were part of the the Bacchus culture. And the story is you have Mount Olympus and Bacchus. Dionysus wasn't on the throne, but eventually they all come down to fight the war, and Dionysus ends up in Vesta's chair, and so she's screwed. She's out of a chair, so she has to go down, and so that's why the Vestal virgins have the fireplace.
Dude, is that an explanation of the 13 chairs thing from Sharon? Because it's 13, and so Barabbas.
The European Union has the 13. Yeah.
So Sharon Tate and Keira DeLay, who played David Bowman in 2001: A Space Odyssey, they're both in movies about Barabbas. One of them is called Barabbas. The other one's called Bring Us Barabbas or Give Us Barabbas or something like that. One's like a Hallmark made-for-TV movie, but for sync purposes, it's totally weird. Yeah.
Interesting. With Henry Denker. That's crazy. Okay, and so like, what do you think about Barabbas? Well, we're supposed to be done. All right, that's it. Stop synchronizing, guys.
Well, let me throw out occultdecode.com. That's another project I've been working on big. And actually, as we were talking, you said electile dysfunction, so I had to add it. But just today, I added like 17 different ciphers now. You can toggle them on and off. You can save different ones. And I've added the date calculator just today.
It's amazing.
Did you do that right? Dysfunction? DYS? Okay, dysfunction.
Yeah, and then you even hit enter. You know the secret codes. So if you hit enter in that search box, it'll load up every known match across those the different cipher. And this is like a building list. So whenever someone actually searches for something, it enters it into that list. So the more people search, the more results there will be over time.
Aaron Dover has electile dysfunction.
And if you keep going down the date calculator, right before I joined here, I added a moon phase to it.
Dysfunction.
So if
anyone can see, this was a rigged election.
If anyone's got any suggestions at all, any more features, any like improvements, just please let me know.
Yeah, I've been using it in the sort of midpoint generator. It's just like you have absolutely no idea how much work that's gonna save me.
Across the Spider-Verse,
it's gonna like improve my efficiency like 10-fold.
We didn't even talk about how Sony's losing Spider-Man. This is gonna be It's gonna be rough. Yeah. Okay. So paranoidamerican.com. Make sure that you also go to occultdecode.com because like look at how rad this is. I mean, you should be using this every day.
It's lightning fast too. If you compare it to any other option out there, this all runs right in the browser.
A beautiful site. I like it. It's great. And you can use it on your tablet. You can try it on a tablet on your phone because it works really well there too, which is also sweet. But go to paranoidamerican.com where you can make sure that you click on the Chosen One new Kickstarter so that you can get signed up for a fall. We're like 25 almost. You guys have to really come on, click on the button. Do it for me. Do it for Thomas. I want to see this comic book release. So you just have to click to be notified. Doesn't cost you anything.
Click the button or the dog gets it.
Yeah, seriously. Paranoidamerican.com and buy yourself the Homunculus Owner's Manual, which is pretty sweet, as well as the MK Ultra pamphlet. Send yourself and some friends some copies because you can give these to everybody you know. He also has a really sweet Chosen One series, which is kind of what I'm getting at here because we all want to know what happens next. So come on.
And it's done. It's ready to come out. We just need like 27 people to click the stupid button and we'll drop the campaign.
Yeah, seriously. So do that. Go to paranoidamerican.com. Also go to the syncbook.com where you can click on videos at the top and then go down to Syncflix where you can find David's new films. Here's his recent synchronicity between Poltergeist and E.T. with Mogwai from Mr. Beast. And is that right? No, Mr. Beast by Mogwai?
Well, yeah.
Yeah. That would be funny if Mr. Beast had an album called Mogwai. And then
he totally should.
And The Hawk is Howling as well. So this is cool.
Yeah, and on my Twitter, I'm trying to do it every day. So if I'm if I'm at my house, I'm not always. Sometimes I stay downtown for a few days at a time when I go to work. But I've been trying to put up videos like every day I'm able. So sync films. I'm really loving that you can do that on social media. It was kind of like really frustrating how often I would try and do this over the years with other social media platforms, and then like this is the whole movie and I can do it in 1080p. It's just like, thank you.
Good job, Elon Musk. You know what I mean? Like you do things like that. Character witness. That's all I'm saying. So
yeah, that's what it took. I mean, I don't know why I would have gotten to the point of paying for social media until he dropped that. I'm just like, wow.
I think you should have held out for red check marks. I'm waiting for everything to go red. I want them to paint the room black and paint it red.
Well, I'm trying to enjoy it while it lasts because I really don't know what's going to happen. So I'm just right now I can do this.
Blue period, we all know it's going to be great after Bluebird and the Blue Beam is done. But yeah, make sure you follow David Charles Plate. It's going to be sweet because he's putting up, like he said, like this is Charlotte's Web with Pink Floyd's Animals. Super based. Okay, so then also go to Synchronis, which is
come all
Eddie's
join
page.
The group and Facebook.
There's the top here. If you click on the Facebook, there's actually a ton of different people in the group as well, and so you can build it up more. It takes a while to load Facebook because it's like MySpace now. They're trying to destroy it.
It's getting worse and worse. So yeah, we have 451 members and growing. So
yeah, not bad. It's like 150 more than there were before. I'll see that grow.
Oh, so that's what the clip. When you go back to that clip, because he was saying that because that guy, the clown, the hairdresser.
I think I met that guy before, that clown.
Yeah, he's like a regular Hollywood hangout.
Right, I've met that guy. He's friends with a friend of mine. Oh yeah, man.
But look at but this clip is showing that they both have coke on their nose. With the PB Herman. So
that's good. Good for him.
It's a good time. Good times.
Yeah, like I told you, it's gonna be legal. So yeah, make sure you go to Synchronis.
You don't know. It could have been ketamine just because it's white now. You don't. Whatever. Never mind.
Yeah, it could have been Calvin Klein, which is never mind. So then also go to Crypto Kubrology. Check out Alex's work. He's doing some amazing stuff. If you haven't noticed, it's pretty cool. I like it.
Thank you. Yeah, just come follow whatever. It's detailed, weird niche stuff, but if you can handle some numbers and it's some of the most incredible synchronicities that are around, and it's a complicated subject. Right. But anyway, yeah, follow me, please. Love it.
It really is. It really.
Thanks for giving me the venue here too to like read it out and show it to people.
We talk about the Truman Show. There's so much stuff we have to go about, and we can bring up AI. We should actually have a drinking game where if we don't bring up AI for 3 episodes, we can get hammered. Okay. Also, the Discord. If you haven't gone to the Discord in a while, it's better. There's thriving stuff happening here. Escape into the Discord. We're trying to keep it safe. TechSpread's keeping it alive. Yeet, Travis. We're gonna have to get you on the show. We should set something up. Let me know when you want to do something. And yeah, thank you for being a member, and thank you all.
Oh, and rest in peace, William Friedkin, Exorcist director.
Yeah, go watch
Oh, dude,
Sulfur or something.
And Ace Ventura's Landlord. That was a bummer. That's a bummer.
Yeah,
people.
well, that's
Everybody dies.
Love you guys. Take care.
Ventura.
Peace.